Hey, RC After Hours community, it's Andre Rousseau on a Friday night, and we are getting ready to go live and have some fun and talk to our guest. I haven't mentioned who the guest is. You'll see in a second when I bring him up on the camera, but he's a good friend of the podcast, and we're going to have some fun questions. We got those hot seat questions. We'll talk about the industry, talk about everything that's been going on recently in the community, and really just have a good time. So without further delay, the man, the mystery, and our guest tonight, who we didn't even intro, we didn't even tease about, because every time I tease a guest, something goes wrong. But here we go. Hey, Steve. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, everyone. How are you, Andre? How's things?
You're up. You're going. It's working. There you go, folks. Look at that.
Everything.
It's Steve, our good friend from the podcast. Yeah, I guess it's been a while. I forget the last time we've had you on the show, and I know everybody was itching and saying, "Where are you?" And so we figured
It would have been just after I left Hobby King.
So
would have been the last time I was on.
there we go.
So it's things have been really good, really positive and awesome, and there's a lot of stuff happening in the RC community, and a lot of stuff happening with me, which has been great. And things are fantastic. And as you can see, I've got some things in the background here which are pretty cool, and we'll talk about that later on.
Yeah, and ditto in the background here.
And I do need to apologise. I have got a cold, which is awesome, but I've got a cup of tea here in front of me, which is great, which I'm going to drink through the podcast. Sorry if that is annoying to anybody, but it's going to make me feel a lot better, so that's going to be a good thing.
Hey, I think I'm hearing some audio on your end from the live stream, so we may need to get to someone to plug in their headphones or turn that down, just so we don't get that over the recording. But all is good, though. Yeah, it has been a while. Anybody listening live, send your questions in. I'll try and capture them as I go, but we will definitely be doing the hot seat. And I got to get people to definitely keep sending in those hot seat questions. I got 38, and like last show when we had Alex Zvada from Flight Test, we were generating, and I had the random generator going and everything, and just having a really good time. Yeah, we'll talk about the flying, because believe it or not, I've been flying. We tried to we tried to do the podcast last weekend, and unfortunately this guy was extremely zapped, and so just erred on the side of caution and just shut it down and didn't do a show. But throughout the weekend, which was the long weekend, the Labor Day long weekend in Canada, and a long weekend in the U.S., I got out flying, and it's been really good. So I know the Friday night thing is a little different for everybody, but the benefit is I fly and I enjoy this hobby, and we'll talk about all the projects and do a little bench flying this evening on the show. So yeah, not a Victor's in there, not the Australian again. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thanks, Victor. I'm from Down Under. It's awesome.
So what have you been up to, Steve?
Oh, well, I actually started a real job. I started working for about a month and a bit ago, which has been taking up a lot of my time, which has been really, really good for myself. Out of the hobby, which has been even better for myself, and things have been really good. Been concentrating a lot on my local club, where I'm the president of Penrith Electric Model Aero Club, where that club is where a lot of the videos will be shot from Hobby King, and we did the Hobby King live event there. So a lot of work there to get done, and there's a lot of interesting characters and, 120 members to look after. So it's been, a lot of fun, and then it takes up a lot of my time, and also moving and so there's been a lot of stuff in my personal life, which has been good. And obviously getting back into my own RC, which has been even better. So I've been back building and doing stuff with my dad, and it's been a lot of stuff, a lot of projects on the run. If you want to, I've probably got around about 100 RC aeroplanes, and they're all in different stages of wanting to be built and needing to be built. So and plus anything new that comes out, I've sort of been like, and I've either got my hands on it or bought it, and it's been really, really good to fly some of the new stuff. So it's been good, really, really good time.
So what have you been flying then?
Well, before I concentrated a lot on Hobby King stuff, and when you work in the industry, you get bogged down in not doing it for yourself and doing it for a company. So you sort of get tied up in 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 other products that you don't particularly want to invest a lot of time in because they're not your own personal interested things. Like for instance, Hobby King would never want to build a 2 meter tiger moth, but I would. And you can see I've got a. If I just turn the camera slightly, you'll be able to see a 2 meter tiger moth, which is getting built, and it's been fantastic. And really enjoying the experience of getting back into the hobby again full time, which has been really really good.
Cool. Yeah, from the chat, there are some questions. I've got to figure out how to copy them, but and get to them. But I'll try and scroll back in later on as we go through, and we'll try and ask you some of those. So you mentioned a variety of flying and everything. Are you still battery based, or have you stepped back into some gas motors?
Now, still, I'd say 90% of my stuff would be electric.
Mm-hmm.
Penrith Electric Model Aero Club
Gotcha.
is where I'm the president, so
Yeah, okay.
I can't fly that. But in saying that, I've still got a few gas aeroplanes and motors and that sort of stuff lined up, and things need to be flown. And there's been a few side projects which I've kind of worked on, which is turbine related, but we won't talk about that. Um, and there's been so to say that I'm out of the industry completely isn't true. I've still got a lot of friends and contacts in the industry,
Mm-hmm.
and I've still talked with talked. That's not that's my cold. Still been in contact with a few people, and we're in talks, and it's been extremely interesting outside the industry as well. So outside of Hobby King. So yeah,
Good.
a lot of
Good.
fun. Yeah,
And
yeah. So
people are noticing your L39, so that you being able to step away from the Hobby King environment, I think you've gotten a chance to fly other brands that you probably were flying in the past, but really weren't featuring.
yeah,
So, and that L39 looks gorgeous. That is one that's high on my I like the try list. So that may have to wait till next time I'm in the U.S. to pick something up. So. But tell
yeah.
us, like, have you been flying a lot of jets?
A bit of a mix, but I've had like my latest jets that I flew would have been the Avanti from Freewing, which I flew a couple of months ago. The L39, the MiG 17, obviously I would have flown that one, and another jet was the Futura from FMS, which I've had for a while and hadn't really flown and really put it together and flew it. I was flying the 90 millimeter Yak 130, but unfortunately I had I won't say a glitch in a radio. It was an issue with a battery adapter, and it rolled into the ground and smashed into about 40 bits. So that was very devastating, but we moved on from that. The L39, I've flown a fair amount of EDFs in my time, and Free Wing and FMS and HSD and stuff like that, and also the Hobby King stuff. And this is, without doubt, the best EDF I've flown out of the box. It is sensational. Put it together, and it takes about 5 seconds, and you get in the air, and it's. I did the maiden in fog, and it was pretty close. Like I had to fly it close and kept it flying nice and slow. And I was like, as soon as it got off the ground, I was like, oh, this thing's a keeper. It probably has 15 flights under its belt now, and the only thing that happened with it was the landing gear was a bit hard, so I had to loosen the landing gear off so it would actually work, and it was nice and soft. And now it comes in because all of my flights are off grass as well. And at the moment in Australia, we've got a massive drought, which has affected 90% of the country, and our field at the moment is like a dust bowl. It's extremely hard and rough, and the aeroplane's going really, really well off grass. So there you go. There's some feedback for guys flying off rough fields. This thing handles, the way that it flies and the performance for an EDF is sensational. It's probably, I'd say, one of their best, and I've flown a fair few of the EDFs from Freewing, so it's a nice plane.
Nice, it is.
Definitely.
And it's up there with my things I want to get list. But it's funny because I got my FMS Yak behind me, man.
Yeah. Make sure you get the camouflage one, the white one.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
The camouflage one.
That Russian one.
But my one's it's definitely a special because you can see on the stars, and that's factory. They came factory from. I got mine from RC Castle, which is in Hong Kong, and you can see the stars, and they're actually further inboard. They should be closer to the yellow stripes, but for some reason, this one. So I must have a special. So thanks, Freewing. So it might have more power or something. I don't know. Maybe they knew it was for me. I don't
That's
know.
good. That's good. Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, I've been. It's funny because, like I said, changing the show up, so I'm free on the weekends to fly. I said let's go, and I pulled the my 6S 3300s out, and we'll talk about battery tech in a bit too. I started flying started flying that it's an FMS version 1 now of the Yak 130, and for those who watched the video. Man, I was nervous. Woo! And I took off, and within 10 seconds, I just yelled, yeah, because this thing was locked, and I was like, cool. Low rates, I haven't put her at a low rates. I haven't changed anything really crazy about it, and it flies really well, and I'd picked up those 3,300 packs for the Avios Grand Tundra, and I'm like, I need something that's going to fly with these packs, and this thing is great. It's a really good jet. I want to say I'm on my 6th or 7th flight with it. I've had one whoop so far, and I had to straighten the gear out. So I'm actually might look into the V2 gear, which has got the suspension. And I flew that flex jet, and I put her into. I've done 2 grass field landings now. One was I was a little too off center, and I misjudged, and the other one I came in. And I hit we were into a crosswind, and I tried to do a little correction, and it dipped a wing, so I just kind of leveled it off, and I landed in the field, and was really impressed just how much shock absorption, how much of a difference that makes to the aircraft versus the. But I tell you, like with the shock, you can take the grass, but the Yak really taught me to come in. I haven't had a lot of success with the the tricycle gear landing, and the Yak has made me really focus in, bringing it in smooth. But I should release a video. I haven't done it yet, and it's called Yak Gets Dirty. And boy, I was bad. I was just this numb mental state where I was like, whoops, I know exactly what I did. And I was coming in for approach, and you've seen the video. I'm coming in for approach. I'm like, I'm not satisfied with this. I've got a camera on the plane, which is probably the worst thing you can do in a small EDF. And I turned, and I boarded my landing, and I turned to the wind. So 1, I'm turning very sharp. 2, speed is down. 3, gear is down. 4, full flaps. And I put that poor plane into such a terrible stall. Flaps up, firewalled it, and I put her through 2 trees, and then I did land. I landed off the field, and that's when I wrinkled the gear. So I had to strip it all apart, foam tack the covers back in, and everything. It was a really good, really good.
You definitely
go ahead.
Yeah, you definitely notice with jets that you need to fly them into the ground is the best way to say it.
Yeah.
But you definitely need to keep some airspeed up and just make sure that flare is right at the last minute to get the nose wheel off and just general. But it's I think Freewing with their Hawk, with the BAE Hawk, with the Red Arrows one, they had the replacement hop up gear, so you could change the landing gear, and that was a massive change. I've seen one of them at my club, and also the P38 Lightning, which I've had for a while now, but I've had the original gear, and I'm going to put the better or the upgraded suspension on that as well. And just that tiny little change. There's not much weight there either. It's a little bit, but with an EDF, you're sort of flying for 2.5, 3 minutes anyway, so a little bit more weight's not going to hurt the performance too much.
Yeah, my Freewing's got the suspension mod as well, so I look forward to flying that one very soon too. I've not actually taken that. That one's due for its maiden. So, and I was so close on my A10, and I had an ESC let go on the ground. I have my ESCs here with me right now. I passed them off to my dad, and he did the swap. So they're going from 70 amp. What are those, Predators? And these are the Skywalkers from Hobbywing. Yeah. These are the 80s, and I've got the controller card coming in. But anyhow, it looks like wet weather, so I'll stuff them into the A10 again and get that thing going, and I change it over to an XT90. So there's another aircraft I'm super excited now. When I flew the Flex, I was stunned at the video as how much space that plane covers in a very short time. And I've got some friends who fly the Flex jet as well. Yeah. and just said, and they were stunned to say, man, you're covering a lot of ground. You can fly it in tighter. And I'm like, I don't know. On the 40C packs, I feel like I need to give that plane a little bit. I have to keep this power up, and I don't feel like I've got the power with the batteries I fly. But what I want to do is I want to take that plane out, and I want to fly with all 3 batteries I have. So I have the 6S 3300s, 60C, and then the 45s, which are 40C, and then the 62s, which I've flown and proven, which are only 40. And I feel like on takeoff with the 40s, I really got to run it out. I got to use the full strip. So, it sounds like I need some 5,000 60Cs. I don't know, right?
Yeah. Bill Decker just asked which one, the C-130 or the E-Flight EC-1500. Ooh. I'm a tad biased.
I know.
But
I know.
But I would say if you were to compare the EC-1500 with the Bushmule, that's a better comparison.
Yeah.
They're different, completely different airplanes. Like you're looking at the C-130 is extremely scale and it's a bit heavier than the EC-1500. And I would say the C-130 sits in its own class, Bill. I would say that you keep that there and you treasure it. I would say to compare the two. I mean, the EC-1500 doesn't have retracts. The EC-1500 is set up to be more a competitor with the Bushmule. The Bushmule itself, Ian and myself were working on a version 2, and I know that was in the cards when I was there. So sorry to leak that, Hobby King. Oops, my bad. Didn't even think about that, but whoops. No, it's but I mean, like version 2s are always going to come. Like the Tundra version 2 will definitely come, and all that sort of stuff. So the progression with new products and new technology will always bring out new models that are successful. So there's no leak there. It's just it's going to happen, I guess. But no, definitely the C-130 is an awesome aeroplane, and I remember when we spoke about this a while back when the C-130 was released. And when we first saw the C-130, we all fell in love with that airplane. If you're an airplane, fanatic and you love your scale warbirds or scale aircraft, then that thing is just sensational. Sure, it had its issues, and sure, it's people are gonna it's 4 engines, it's a heavier airplane, but in comparison, you can't compare the two. It's not apples with apples there. It's apples and oranges, but definitely the Bushmule and the EC-1500, you can compare them. Like I said, no retracts on the EC-1500, less weight. It's a different foam structure. It's a lighter weight altogether, and it also has the same functionality or the same sort of features as the Bushmule. So you're looking at, there would be my comparison, Bill.
Interesting.
And which one would be better? Don't know the EC-1500, but from all reports, it's pretty decent setup. It's got the full range flaps, aileron set up on the wing. I mean, I'm not too keen on making it a twin 3D. That's doesn't. No interest whatsoever, but for guys that want to have fun, I mean, the Bushmule is all about. I remember we used to fly the pants off those things, so I can definitely understand what you want to do with the EC-1500, and it does look really cool. I saw, Ryan and Mike, they were flying their 1500 and flew extremely well and a lot of fun. So it was good. It's good.
I kind of wonder how, for me, when I look at a plane like that, the first thing I think of is how well will this thing do in the winter? Would it, is it going to be neat on skis? It probably will. I admit it's high on my maybe might happen.
It comes with floats.
Yeah.
It comes with floats, so you could.
Yep. Totally.
Does it come with? Are there skis in the pack with the?
I don't
remember,
itself? But I mean, I've got enough skis kicking around in this from my various aircraft. But it's definitely something I look into. The lower gear stance. Who knows? I mean, you're going to be plowing through the snow where the Bushmule was a little higher off the ground and could deal with that. But there was always the front nose. I mean, I cracked more skis on my sky. But my buddy CNC'd me a bit. And all. So there's just so many ways to do it. So, and a couple of people were asking about the MiG-17 if people have flown it and everything. That is another one. Again, some little issues, but damn, big 90 mil. It's funny that... I was saying, for me, the next thing I'm looking for, if I do another jet, I've got quite a few in the fleet already, and we'll talk about the one behind me, too, that I've just finished. Yeah, I definitely want an 80. I want to try the 80 mil because then I'll have the 70s and the 80s and the 90. So
Yeah. Well, the 80 mil, I've got the original. Oh, not, I don't know if it was the original 80 mil, but it was one of the originals. Was the F-86 Sabre from Freewing.
yes.
Um, and I have over 200 flights on that aeroplane. The original running gear, the original landing gear, and we fly off grass. And that thing is, I've heard a few people at the club have had them and said, "Oh no, it's a terrible plane." But I don't know. I've had that dialed up, and it is a favourite. I think that was their benchmark for a long time and still is.
Yeah.
That F-86 is just superb. It's light foam, plenty of power out of the 80 mil on 6S. Battery space is a bit limited. You're sort of down to a 4,000. You might be able to squeeze a bigger, little bit bigger battery in there depending on the build. But that is a really, really nice jet. So if anyone wants to get into other than the Avanti, if you want to get into a scale jet, then it'd be the F-86 or the L-39. I've also got the MiG-21, which I've had two of. One went through a fence. It was my dad's fault. It was my dad's fault. 100%. It was my dad's fault. But that went through a fence, and we found the motor probably 50 meters away from the actual crash site, which is pretty funny. And another one in the box, which I've got to put together. But that's the MiG-21 is just a cool looking jet. It just looks fast on the ground. So, and Victor, I know you've got one and you love it, and you keep teasing me about it because every time you say it's 2 years old and stuff, and just whatever. Thanks, Victor.
It's funny because I look at the jets and as much as I thought about the Avanti, I went with the Hawk. Well, one for price and just learning jets and everything. But
Yeah,
that's what drew me to the
that's
L-39 and I can't fall in love with the modern jets now. That F-18, either the Freewing F-18, because I would totally do it up like an RC, like the Canada 151 that was there from the graphic job from Cali. Oh
yeah.
that was just
Yeah.
gorgeous, and like that scheme is beautiful. But I get the same effect out of the Hawk and the Yak. So it's that particular jet. And I just find the vintage. I guess vintage is the right word now, but some of the vintage planes
Yeah.
are just amazing. So it's just.
I talking about 80 mil, the FMS
Mhm.
Hawk. That is unbelievable. That's probably my next EDF if I'm going to buy one.
Mhm.
That aeroplane, I've seen a few at my club, and I'm just like, yeah, that is a good looking aeroplane. It flies really well.
Yeah.
Very, yeah. I'd say it's a bit better than the Freewing one, but a different aeroplane again. Is 70 millimeter in comparison to 80 millimeter, so it's a different aeroplane.
Yeah.
But if you were to compare the two, then and if you wanted to do it that way, I'd definitely lean towards the FMS one. It's just a little bit better, and
Yeah.
it's got that anniversary tail, which I'm not fond of. I'd rather just the standard one. But it's the way that thing flies, and Avantis and all that sort of stuff, and even the Futuras are all based off a Hawk anyway. When you look at the wing platform and the
Yes.
fuse and everything,
Yeah.
yeah, the silhouettes you could basically say it's a sports jet of a Hawk. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and that's what drew me. That's what I love about that L-39 because we know
yeah,
what they
yeah,
did with our chats with Alpha. And they basically put the Avanti power system, which has proven itself, and stuffed it into that. And I love like the red, white, and blue one was gorgeous, but that Russian scheme, it really. But what kills me is that leap between the 70 mil price wise to the 80 is just wow. And then obviously when you get to the 90, it's crazy.
yeah,
I mean, I know what I paid for the Flex Jet, which is a
hmm
premium jet.
yeah,
If and for me, I was never happy with some of the QC stuff on it that I had with my particular jet, but the Mamba,
yeah,
is stunning. But I don't know. I'm really happy that I've had the opportunity to fly the jets into the fall, and I'm going to keep going until the weather goes, and then I'll switch over to my winter flying.
yeah,
But it's just really nice, and full credit to that FMS Yak for relaxing me because my previous EDF experiences were too terrifying. First flights with a 90 mil, right? Putting the flex in the air,
yeah.
and this thing relaxed the heck out of me, and I've just enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to the 70s eventually, and behind me, if anybody can see, is a I'll lean over.
Dynam.
I know, but I traded for it. My buddy had a whoopsie and smacked up his Dynam 62 ME626 and 262. Yeah.
I've got a really funny story about Dynam. This is hilarious actually. This made my probably the funniest joke I've ever heard at an RC club. Was in Ian was actually flying the MiG 17 at our club and doing the video for the production of it. And one of our members walked up to Ian and said, "Oh, Ian, is that Dynam?" And Ian, oh, I've never Ian's face. It was the funniest thing I have ever heard. And the look on Ian's face was just. And then Ian pulled me aside later on and goes, "Is he for real? Like this guy?" And then I spoke to the member. He's like, "Yeah, that was a good one." We're just having a little bit of a chuckle, but it was very funny.
I know.
Anyway.
I know, and it's only my second Dynam in my fleet, but it was one of those, unicorn planes where it's like I'll try it out. I got a wicked deal on it. Did a small trade,
Yep.
and I guess he pancaked it in, but foam tack works really well on the Dynam foam, and it came back together really quick. It's only a 4S plane, so I'm going to use a couple of my a couple of my 3300 packs to strap together for now, and then we'll go from there. And I'll try it out. If the winds are good on Saturday or Sunday, I'll put it up and try it, and then I'll go from there. But
But you must.
everything I hear is
You must.
they're really good gliding planes. They got a good slope on them.
No, but all of Dynam airplanes, like they've got a bit of a bad name, but all their airframes are perfect. Like if you have a look at their earlier stuff is we won't count that, but you look at some of their later stuff, and with the electronics aside, the airframes are pretty good.
Yeah.
So the Messerschmitt 110, which I've had for a while but not flown, it's just sat there and I've gone on to rebuild it. But my aeroplane from Dynam is the Gloucester Meteor, because that aeroplane is just damn amazing looking. A lot of people say the 262 is nice and it does this and that, but the Gloucester Meteor just looks tough. It just looks like a stumpy winged,
Yep.
But in saying that, it's fairly expensive for the model, and the electronics you're going to have to throw out and replace.
Yeah.
Your retracts might not work out of the box. The fans are going to sound pretty annoying, and you're going to have to fix them, and ESCs probably won't work and all that sort of stuff. But as far as the aeroplane goes, when I was at Hobby King, we had the Gloucester Meteors on the list to get built, and Dynam released it, and so I scratched it and didn't build it because I saw the images and went like, they've nailed the scale. Like it's fantastic. Like the outline of the airframe was perfect. It looked really good. They've done a good job with the nacelles, considering they can't be scaled because they're an EDF.
Yeah.
And then they released it, and I was like, they've Dynamed it. Wow, what have they done? But anyway, so in a way, I wish I would have kept going with it. But it's one of those things. But I do want to get my hands on one. So if anyone in Australia wants to sell one, let me know. And obviously, do what other guys have done and put better electronics, and then get it to fly properly. So that's
well, that's my goal and intention with the 626. I'll put in either. It's only got a fan 70 mil five blade. I've got 6, and I can put a 12 in if I want. And just over time, I'm going to I'll fly it, and I'll go from there, and then I'll patch up the scratch marks and stuff like this, and just enjoy it, right? And it'll let me know if I want. And it was interesting because I had a conversation with someone else from the field who's got the free wing, and they're saying, like, yours doesn't need flaps. It comes in so nice. The free wing, you got to bring it in hot. And the biggest thing I was warned about was make sure the ESCs were in sync all the time. Otherwise, you'll put her into a death spin.
Yeah. Well, that's a twin-engine aeroplane, like a twin-engine EDF. Like I've seen the SU-30 from, the SU-30 or the 27 or whatever you want to call it, from Freewing, and I've seen that come in on one engine, and it doesn't come in on one engine. It comes in hard towards the ground, really hard. And there was actually a funny, I think we spoke about this before with Ian. He had about 4 or 5 of these things, and every time I saw him, he was like, "No, I've just rebuilt it. I've repainted it." And it was just a new airframe. He had so many of them. He smacked so many in the ground. It was hilarious. But that was a running joke with the Freewing SU 2030. That's sort of the 30. So sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So Rick Collins
Yeah,
says, "Are you
just
saying I shouldn't get into jets because they get expensive?" Yes and no. Jets can go off the.
yeah,
It's funny.
like
The jets. The problem, not a problem with the jets, because when you fly them, they are freaking rewarding as hell. I mean, it's just it's 3 minutes of terror. But the problem is, you need the batteries, you need the chargers. All
yeah,
that stuff
yeah.
has to be stepped up. 6S is just mind-boggling expensive for what they are.
Yeah.
And like the first thing that
But
I have.
no, you're right. You do need to step. A lot of guys, I've seen a few guys on Facebook chats and stuff like that talking about they've crashed their new F-18 and that sort of stuff, but it's their third aeroplane or something like that. And these guys are flying way outside of their limits. And I'm not talking about stuff that happens, like, I mean, crashes happen and aeroplanes
Yes.
do not function the way that you want it to. But I've seen a lot go in, and the havoc, and I've just noticed recently there's been a lot of EDF crashes,
Yep.
and I would put it down to a couple of things, but the biggest thing I put it down to is obviously, you can't trust the people that manufacture these planes, because it's like saying you trust someone who, builds a new car. You've got to have a responsibility where you set the aeroplane up to, what am I trying to say? If you were to go and buy a brand new Cessna and you were going to fly a full-size aeroplane, you would check over that thing with a fine-tooth comb, because you're going to fly it yourself and possibly kill yourself if you crash. And it's the same as with a plug-and-fly aeroplane, is that we rely on these factories and the companies to, to make sure that these things are glued together, put together properly. We don't go over all the minute little things like the servos, and we should. And that comes with experience. And you see a lot of guys, that are sure, and I think I said this on one of the Facebook chat sites, was that sure, like fast jets get, they get the girls, so you want to be able to fly them, but you need to build up to it. You got to learn to walk before you can run. And a lot of guys just go like F-14 Tomcat. I remember Top Gun. I'm going to go and get it and fly it. Man, that thing is not a first EDF jet.
No.
Like, you're going to put it in. Yeah, it's going to crack. You're going to waste, a lot of money. And you're going to dent your pride, and you're probably never going to want to fly a jet again. So we need to understand that you need to work up with these things, and that comes with the cost of the product as well. Like, you don't want to go and spend and outlay a lot of money on an aeroplane which is not going to come back. So you build up to these aeroplanes. Like someone put up there, Rick Collins put up there about the flight test Vigan.
Mm-hmm. Gee, you've got one.
Yeah, hey, I do. It's on the list. And that's a perfect example of a beginner EDF. Extremely light wing loading, flies very well, different type of powers. You can run it on 4S, so it's cheap, but then you can put it on 6S later on, and you can change the fan out, whatever you want to do. Yeah. So there's options there as well, but definitely work your way up to buying an F-18 or even a MiG-17. Or,
you know what? The Durafly Vampire. Beautiful, well-mannered, and that is 4S. That's a 4S jet, and start there. There are some 3S jets, but I don't think you get the opportunity to fly them correctly.
No, no, you're right. You're 100% right. That airframe has been around for a long time. I remember when Scott was at Hobby King. That's how long ago that was. And that aeroplane has been through some, reincarnations with the different schemes. But the original one. And it goes, when you build it properly and straight, because you need to remember that you've got flying surfaces that are all glued together. But once you have that thing set up, it is amazing to fly. You can fly that so slow, and the wing loading is so light. And I've seen a few at the club fly, and guys are like, oh, this is a horrendous aeroplane to fly. It's like, you set it up right, and it is perfect. Yeah. It is, and that with all the RC planes, but that one in particular, you're right. That the Vampire is. I've seen that thing on 6S with a 3300 screaming around the sky, and then
the wings just going, oh my god!
Yeah, and I've flown it with an 1800 4S because it was the only pack I put it in by mistake, and I flew it, and it was so slow, and it was unbelievable how slow you can make that thing fly. So yeah, definitely a nice, and it is still. Someone just asked, the Vampire. Yeah, it's been going for a long time, and no doubt the guys at HK and we'll definitely bring it back out, or have new designs and changes on that aeroplane, because it is a very, very it's been a very successful aeroplane for them. So it will continue to evolve.
Yep. Yeah, I could. There are. Sorry.
Someone's brought up the Arrows. I think the Arrows jet. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
Victor said something about the Arrows jet. Yeah, yeah. The Marlin, the RC Marlin. That's a 64 mil jet, isn't it? The
Yes, it
new one,
is. Yes, it
or
is.
new sort of one. And that's just another Avanti or Futura. Yeah, it's just a smaller version of that. So, the big 90 mil Avanti or the turbine Avantis all fly well. So
Yeah, yeah.
they'll
Simple
continue to fly
64.
well down to 50 mil.
Yeah, a simple 64 millimeter jet.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just there are many ways to come in. Even those the smaller ones from Freewing. What was it? The 51, the P15. Sorry, the P15 is really good, stable.
Yeah.
It's a wing.
That is a nice
It's a
airplane.
wing. It's an EDF wing. It's
I
nice.
because
I packed mine
because
in,
they did
but
a 50 mil. They did a 50 mil Thunderjet as well, didn't they? Like, no, not a Thunderjet, a Thunder
yeah,
Chief, maybe.
64 millimeter, and good, but limited on its
Is that
reflexes, limited on its control reflexes, but it was pretty decent. So
someone? So I just got a note through the door. Oh yeah, my dad wants me to talk about the Skyhawks.
Skyhawk.
Go away, Barry.
Well,
Yeah, so I had the 80 mil Skyhawks from Freewing.
okay.
One of my club members put two in, so he crashed two, and I've paid $150 Australian for both of them,
Ah.
and which is worth around about $13 US. Um,
You're on Canadian money par there, yeah.
God. And yeah, so my dad and myself are rebuilding two of them at the moment. So I've got one in Royal New Zealand Air Force colour scheme and Australian Navy colour scheme. So it's that's a lot of fun. So talking with the RC geek Chris over there, Chris Wolf, he's helped us out with some bits and pieces and some information that he's some knowledge from him flying the Skyhawk. So we're nearly ready to apply some paint, and I've got the decals from Cali Graphics. Shout out to Cali Graphics, she's amazing. And those the register on the decals and the quality of the decals is fantastic, or decals or whatever you want to call them. Yeah, but that's a project that we've been working on for a while, and I think I showed you some images of those Skyhawks, and been a lot of fun, and sort of rebuilding and repainting. It's been it's good.
Interesting.
Someone said, I hate tossing aeroplanes. Now that new one from Hobby King, that Flycat, mate, that thing has some stupid power out of the box. Like, I saw one of the guys fly that on, and he's just sort of hand tossed one hand, and the thing just took off out of his hand. That thing, I haven't flown one myself. I've seen it.
I guess the advantage with an EDF, it wouldn't torque roll, right? So you can actually do it, but it looks so big that throwing it with one hand must be just so cumbersome.
It looks ridiculous. It's massive. But I've seen guys have modified the wheel wells underneath, because originally it has got the pockets for the landing gear if you wanted to put retracts. And I've seen guys modify that and put some grip tape inside that the holes, the landing gear, so you can hand launch it and throw it.
Yeah.
Which will work. But that is, like you said, it's a meter wingspan or thereabouts. It's a very big airplane to hand launch, but it does it perfectly.
Yeah.
I've seen a guy try and take it off the grass. That was very unsuccessful. Tried to rotate off the ground, covered up the cheetah hole with some tape.
Oh, yeah?
And it went along the ground. There's way too much suction. It just sticks the airplane to the ground. So if you want to drive an EDF on the ground, I suggest you do that. Oh. So it's pretty funny. But it's a really, really nice, stable airplane at all speed. I mean, that's a cool jet too. Like definitely a beginner jet. For sure, that one.
Yeah, I
forgot to talk about
I looked at it's one of those ones that. It's funny. I've been so anti-shipping this in the last couple of weeks, so I haven't really looked at. I have but the cardinal rule is I'm not allowed purchasing anything in September until closer to my birthday. Otherwise, I get lynched.
Yeah.
But
there's another point. Bill Decker just said it needs a bungee, and that's a simple thing you can do. You can either do a high start or a bungee to launch your jet.
EDF jet. Yeah. Why don't you just do a full? Yeah, it'd be like doing a carrier launch, man. That would be so freaking wild.
Yeah, we've got a guy that used to fly at our club, one of the champions of EDF flying at our club. He did it before it was cool. He used to he had a little it was I think made by Alpha Models or something or something like that. Anyway, it was a little Skyhawk painted up in Israeli colours, and he used to launch that thing with a bungee. And I'm sure the bungee was probably 10 times the amount of power that it needed, and the speed, the way this thing used to take off.
Full wing flex.
Outstanding. Yeah, it was awesome, and he used to just a lot of fun. But yeah, the silver aeroplane in the background is that's actually my dad's Tiger Moth. It's 2 meter wingspan, made by Green's Models, and that thing is just it's coming along. It's been probably I think it's been made for about oh I don't know a few years now.
Nice.
It's been in and out of, but there's so much detail. I'll show you later. Actually, the cockpit is just it's well worth it to have a look at it because
What
it's
kind
pretty
of
cool.
power system is going to go into it?
That'll be an electric 63 mil. It'll run on 6S with a big, nice big prop on the front.
Yeah.
It's a nice, plenty of wing area. It's huge,
See,
but the airplane's massive.
See, that's if I had the capacity to get something like that to the field, that's what I would do. Completely stupid, but just gorgeous. And it's not going to go fast, but it's going to be super big and beautiful to watch through the air. I loved bi-wings.
The only thing I need to change is my flying. I need to understand that this thing
does not go Mach 2.
I normally I don't have any limits. Like I'll fly, a maiden flight. My first thing I do in a maiden is do a roll to make sure everything's, complete, and then I'll fly it as fast and as hard as I can. And now I've been like, for instance, the maiden on the L-39. I took my time. I made sure the landing gear worked, and I set it up properly, and then I flew, and then I landed, and I was all happy. And then the next flight, I still didn't push it too hard, and now I fly it like I stole it.
Yeah.
But
it's because you're paying for your own planes now, right?
Exactly. Before it was chaos. We would just like get an airplane and you would fly it as hard as you can because you were trying to test out the airplane's ability. So you would push it as hard as you can. So you would make it do things like I remember when we first flew the Sky Sword, and I was flying it like a 3D plane. The fan kept popping off the front of the EDF. So that was often on the throttle so hard.
Yeah.
But the Sky Sword can do some amazing stuff. If you really throw it hard and really push it, you can do some, like, I've done the 90 mil one when we did the filming. It didn't make the video, but I did it like a Longevak at around about 50 feet off the ground. And it recovered and slowly just pulled out, and you could see the grass come off the exhaust and that sort of stuff. And it was like, that nearly went in. And it was like a challenge because Toby was actually flying at the time. It was like a challenge to see which one could go in the hardest and who could make the biggest
mess.
fly at the hardest.
Nice.
It was a lot of fun with that airplane. I remember that thing is just, and I've still got one, which I've got to get back in the air again. I haven't flown for a while, but the Sky Sword, and I know that some of the guys have had the Sky Sword and flown them in the Diamond and from AF models, and they've also flown the Sky Sword, and it's all of them are fantastic. But it's you love it, hate it, that airplane. Like we know how much Michael wanted a pink one, never actually got one.
No, we never managed to get one to him. So yeah. Poor Mike and his pink planes. Oh yeah. Actually, it was funny the other night. Myself, Chris, and Adam, and Mike were having a good old chat because we had spotted on the Hobby King new a V2 B17 done in the colors that the Liberty Foundation are flying right now. Old pubbers.
Oh yeah.
It's same colors. So Adam and I'm like, drop a note to Hobby King, man. Tell them if they want to fly in the real thing, they know where to find you. So.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah. That's my cousin did a trip over to the States, and he's done it a couple of times. But he's flown and teased me. He's got a photo of him in the gun near the gun site and flying around the B-17. And I'm just like, go away, don't show me those photos. But he's had the opportunity to fly in a lot of planes, and he's an airplane tragic, and gets to go to a lot of different things, and he's been to Russia for their 100th Federation Air Show or whatever it was, and he's like, I'm just like, shh, go away.
Yep.
Don't want to talk to you
Well,
about
that's it.
airplanes. But,
I missed the golden. Sorry, not the golden arrows. The red arrows were here in Ottawa, and I missed them because I was having a really bad day. I missed that show. But one of our friends, Dave Rayner, he works security at Pearson International in Toronto. He's got a shot where he's standing in front of the darn planes. I'm like, But I'll like I said, if the weather's good this weekend, I'll get I'll get the Hawk out, and I just got to set up my radio. That's the last thing I need to do. Put some rates in there so she's tame and go for it. Because now that I've flown this guy and that other one, and I'll try maiden that one as well. I'm trying to not let my maidens wait a whole year after I've acquired the airplane. I'm trying to be good and fly the things I get. So
I've got the Black Horse Heinkel 111. The World War II, like the Luftwaffe, the known stereotype bomber.
Mm-hmm.
I've got that airplane. I've had it for 4 years, probably more, and it's been at that state of all I need to do is to solder up the connections to put the battery in, and bolt it together and go and fly it. And it's been sitting there and waiting. And my dad reminds me that it's there, and I'm just like, yeah, I know, and it's just sitting there. Everything's ready to go. Everything's built, and all I need to do is just make it work. And I'm like, eventually, it's on my list. It's on my to-do list.
I sold planes. I actually sold
three.
I got rid of 3 airplanes last week, which was kind of weird. I wasn't. 2 of them I was okay with. One I got for the trade for the for the ME, which was like cool. And then I got rid of when the Mamba came in. I was like, well, this means the old Park Zone Sukhoi goes away. And I managed to sell that at a good price. Yep. And then I was kind of unsure, but I said I got a good offer on the E-Flight Commander. Love that airplane. But after I flew, honestly, after I flew the Mamba, I was like, okay, certain planes which take, and the Commander is a beautiful plane, but took up a considerable amount of space. I mean, basically, it's a fixed gear Spitfire as far as I'm concerned. Gorgeous, flew wonderful.
Yeah, it does. It has. There was an airplane that Hobby King did. It was a balsa plane that had a very similar wing to the Commander and also to the Spitfire, which was like that elliptical sort of style wing. And it flew really, I can't think of what it was, Estrella or something. I can't remember what it was called now, but it was a balsa plane. And it flew so well. Slow speed handling was really good. And the same as the Commander. I've seen that thing in, I mean, I know it's got a gyro in it, so it's a little bit of cheating, but it's, I've seen that thing fly, and it flies really, really well.
Yeah, it was a wonderful airplane, but I mean, I flew it and I enjoyed it, and it was I bought it because I liked it, but I that Mamba freaking impressed the hell out of me, and it's just actually I need to pick up some new batteries. I need to get some new 3S2200s because that Mamba likes good, powerful batteries, and I've got 2 or 3. And then can you run it on 4S? Or?
You
can, but the motor apparently will need to be upgraded. So I'm just going to kind of, I wanted the 60. We talked about this. I wanted the 60, and I'm so happy that I got the 10 because it's a smaller form factor, fits in the car, flies on those 3S. But I was running it on my they got to be 5 years old now. My old A specs, and I took off, and my buddy was going to do chase, and I took off, and I was like, oh, this is leggy. This is really bad. And I'm like, I'm like, bring it in, change the pack.
It's amazing. I did I had the E-Flight Mule, the M7. And I got that plane, set it up, took off, and instantly I was bored. And I just, some planes do it for you and some don't. And this one in particular just didn't. And it was supposed to fly on 4S, and it was, spec'd out to fly on 4S. And as soon as I went full throttle, the ESC went in, it just overheated and stopped working.
You're not the first person to say that.
Times. And I was like, what the hell? I mean, the aeroplane itself, the design and the fuselage and the wing and everything flew really well. Like, there was no problems at all, and it settled down nice and did everything you needed to do. But the aeroplane itself just, I don't know. I was very bored as soon as I took off. And it shouldn't. It shouldn't. It does everything you need to do. But it was a very benign aeroplane. I just felt the word vanilla come to mind.
And
So
it
I
had
moved
some
that one on
technical
pretty
issues as
quick.
well, right? It had some fit and finish
Yeah,
issues.
yeah, yeah, it did. I mean, like the hardware and stuff like that was a little bit meh, and there were a few things that were, could have been done for an airplane that was built, 2 years ago. The technology just seemed old school.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
which is fine because it's but the wing connectors and that sort of stuff, which every airplane needs to have, especially if you're going to take the wings off and on,
Yeah.
especially in this day. Like it's all good to say, oh, buy a part, but they make life so much easier when you need to take the wings off and on. But I mean, it did come with a lot of things, like it come with the skis and
Yeah.
sorry, the floats, and
Yeah.
you had some other options there. The lights are really good, and the package itself, the interior looked good. The battery hatch is really small, which is useless.
Hey,
Yeah,
at least it was top
completely
mounted.
useless. Yeah, which is good. Like unlike the timber, which is bottom mounted, which is very annoying, and I think that they should have changed that with the newer timbers, but they didn't.
Yeah.
But the yeah, but it
Actually,
has that nice.
I have it,
That,
and I have it. Go on, but I have a timber story for you as well.
oh, okay. And did the nose fall off it? I've seen a couple of
It was configuration stuff. You'll enjoy this.
yeah. Anyway, oh, we'll talk about that later. Yeah, but the mule was sort of like one of those planes where it just didn't do it for me, so I moved it on, which is fine, and that made way for. And I'm talking about selling. I sold some balsa planes, which I never, I try not to, but I got rid of a gas plane, and it was a cap,
Oh, okay.
Great Plains
Yep.
Cap 580,
Yep.
which is like the round pattern underneath and the colourful top. I sold that to one of our members, and it had a gas motor and everything in it, which is cool. And the other one was a 2 meter Ryan or 1.8 meter Ryan. Now I can't remember. It was a Black Horse Ryan. I moved that one on as well. So a couple of planes have left the hangar. No doubt a few more will join in. But talk about Flex Innovations, that RV8, I've got that, and that is a cool plane.
Yes,
That
that's
is really, really
big.
nice.
That surprised me just how big that
Yeah,
airplane was, and like I said, I'm happy they didn't have the 60, the Mamba 60 there because I would have.
yeah, yeah,
I saw it, but they didn't have it for retail, and I would have picked that up. And then they have the 70, which is the
yeah.
build up one. It looks
Yep, yep.
gorgeous. It's got like
Yeah, no,
and I'm like going, do I have the servos and all this stuff? And they didn't have it there, but the color and everything. Yeah, there's the
no,
Flex is doing well, and they had that
that,
weird hover vehicle that they just came out with.
yeah, but I think that was to no, E-flite had that VTOL whatever plane that was as well, which is kind of a gimmicky sort of thing.
Mm.
But I think it's one of those planes where you're an RC guy and you want to just have fun and enjoy the hobby. That's what they're about. They're
Mm.
not necessarily a full on RC plane. They're more just to
Yeah,
put in the car. You're flying around. You have a bit of fun with it. It's similar to a Radian, like that thing. You can just fly it and enjoy it.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's not necessarily the best quality. It's not necessarily, but
It's a
it
different
functions
it's a
and it
different
does everything you
flying.
need
Yeah,
to do.
yeah.
Yeah, completely different. It's not, yeah, but it's
So then, asking you a question then right now is, what impresses you right here, right now? If you had, money in in your hand to burn, what would Steve go out and buy today?
oh,
Mm.
what would I throw my money away on? I uh, yeah, I was very excited that Hangar 9 were going to release a Japanese plane, and then when they released it, the size that it is, I was a bit
It's
like,
huge.
it
88
doesn't sort of fit my,
inches, 88-inch
that doesn't
wingspan.
fit. Yeah, I do like the Japanese planes, and I regret I had ESM was a company years ago that used to make composite airplanes, and I had the Oscar, no, the Raiden, which is the stumpy looking Japanese plane, and I was hoping it was going to be something like that sort of would fit around the 20-30 cc size, but it wasn't. It's obviously a big airplane, which is fine. I mean,
Yeah.
and mate, kudos to those guys to bring out an airplane that big and try and sell it. I mean, that's a big risk. It's a big airplane. It's an expensive airplane. Your turnover isn't going to be great, but it's a very nice looking airplane. They've done an extremely well, great job on the design. And when you see it fly, but it's a big airplane and it's very expensive. So what would I buy? I did buy the Hangar 9 Thunderbolt. The That was the newer version. I think it was the Razorback. I've got that in the to-do
Oh,
list,
that's not bad at all.
and I did click the buy now button and bought the H King Beechcraft Baron,
Oh, hey, you know what? If you give me a second, I can throw
which
that up on the screen for people to look at because that is on one of our topics. But I've got it right here. Hold on, power technology. There's Steve. There's Andre, and there is the H King Beechcraft with serverless
yeah,
retracts, which I don't understand why they say serverless because it's the same principle. It's a darn motor. But that's
I think it's the term servoless and servo retracts means that they're basically the servo operates the mechanism to then bring your
yeah.
gear up and down. So you need a separate servo to operate your retracts. So I think that's why they say serverless retract.
Hey,
But
I'm gonna
I
answer
don't
a
really know.
real question here. Rick Collins asked, any thoughts on making a wing making all in one connectors for scratch build planes? Rick, all I'm gonna say this is go and find yourself some 6S balance cables. Cut those, solder those
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
Boom. That's what they're doing in the industry right now. It's simple, easy, and a really
and
solid connection.
it is a solid connection. It's similar to what the ribbon wires that would be used in like the Avanti, for instance,
Yep.
that has those ribbon connectors.
Yep.
Same sort of principle,
Yeah.
and they work really well. To be honest, my own planes that I build, I don't use any sort of wing connectors. I'd rather have the servo lead connection straight from there to the receiver as much as possible.
Yep.
So what I mean by that is to have the lead one lead without a connection going from the servo to the receiver. Sometimes that's impossible, but if you make your own servo leads, it's not. So if I've got an airplane that I really want to keep and I really want to enjoy it, then that's what I would do there.
Mm-hmm.
Wing connectors are okay, but it also leads to, you have a connection on either side of the wing connector plus the wing connector. So you're looking at three joints there, three joints that can fail.
Yeah.
So it's
Corrosion
kind of,
and all that other jazz.
yeah, you pull them in and out. You pull, how many times did you pull the wings off and on? So every time you fly, you might fly the plane 30 times a year, for instance, or
Yeah.
whatever. You're going to cause some sort of fatigue or damage to that plug eventually.
Yeah.
So they're not, yeah. But back onto the H King Beechcraft Baron. I mean,
Look
that's
at
a
that thing.
spectacular looking airplane. I've always been interested in airplane. VQ Models did a version of it, and but that one there is the color scheme is just neat. And I just saw it and went, I think I might have been drunk. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. But anyway, it's here now, and it's very nice looking airplane. The build, it's not a high speed performer.
No.
You're not going to want to throw this thing too. The tail surfaces aren't the strongest. But in saying that, they don't need to be. It's not designed to be a rocket. It's designed to be a nice, civilian airplane that flies. Not many of these, unless you're at an air show at Oshkosh, are going to do a loop or a roll. So these airplanes are designed to do some nice flying. And the undercarriage is pretty solid. The build itself is pretty solid. Would I have a gas engine in this airplane? Probably not.
No.
The vibration would probably shake it to bits, but an electric setup with a dual setup with less vibration and that sort of stuff would be
What kind
perfect.
of? Well, they're suggesting 800-watt motors. So what is that like?
I've got the 42 millimeter SK3 motor,
Okay,
which is
gotcha. Yeah.
around about 700 kV, I think,
Yeah.
and that'll spin that's overpowered, to be honest.
12,
That'll probably
12
be.
by 7 prop. That seems huge for this thing. But if you got the room, I guess. Well, it's a 6-inch prop,
Yeah.
top to deck. Yeah. Well, yeah. 3-blader.
It's a lot. Yeah, I'm probably gonna run master air screws.
Yes.
Just counter.
Yeah.
Yep, and yeah, just everything else will be just standard size servos. So yeah, but it's not a cheap model, and it's not the setup's going to be fairly yeah, it's a. But in saying that, go back to the Bolsa kits, the Hangar 9 model that I got the Thunderbolt. I would
$1,000 plane easily, right?
When you set it up, yeah, it is, yeah. But I would not run a gas motor in that plane.
No.
That airframe will just be shaken to bits.
Yeah.
Like I don't like the airframe. It's built very light. It's very lightweight.
Yeah.
So an electric setup is perfect.
Nice.
Sure, you can run a gas motor in it, but you'd have to run over every single joint and every single, you'd have to re-glue everything again. I wouldn't be confident to fly it on a gas motor, to be honest. I would fly that on electric setup, and less vibration. I mean, gas motors are pretty, they can shake the airframe a fair amount, startups and so yeah. I mean, a lot of guys will, probably say that that's not the case, and Hangar 9 models are perfect and they're designed for gas motors. But that one there in particular, that Thunderbolt, if you were going to put a gas motor in it, you would have to go over the whole airframe. It's very, very lightweight and even reinforce certain bits and pieces. But yeah, no, you're right. It's an expensive model, and the models are expensive now.
Yes.
There's no cheap.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you look at foam, like the RV8, I think is, what's that, 600 US at the moment?
Think so.
Somewhere
I think so. And it was on the outer curve. Well, even my FlexJet was on the outer edge of what I was comfortable with bringing back, right?
But that RV8 is massive. Like, it's a big lump of foam. Like, it's a really big. Like, I've got the T28, the E-Flight one, and they're roughly the same size. But that just so big. It's just massive. And Hangar rash,
just looking at it. Yep.
You move it around. It's just like, I'm going to hit a doorway. I'm going to do this. It's just a really big airplane. It's a big chunk of foam, but it flies perfect.
And then from Hobby King, something that caught us off guard almost was that Cessna, that TTX EPO.
Yeah.
It's funny because I actually had an opportunity. I was online and I mentioned something, and Toby had come back with a response, and I said, "Hey, well, I've got you here. Why is this sorry, I whacked my microphone. Why is this plane not a Durafly? This should have been a Durafly." And he told me, he says, from a QC quality, it was very close. Obviously, it wasn't developed in-house, but he said the color code between the plastic cowling and the foam was off just enough that they didn't want it, that it wasn't worthy of being a Durafly. But talk about, that would have been a gorgeous Durafly as far as I was concerned.
Well, yeah, but with Avios and Durafly, the way that works and always has worked, if there's another manufacturer who would be able to sell that product somewhere else, then they don't.
Okay, exclusivity, it's gone. Yeah. No, that's true.
Sky Sword is a perfect example of that product. So basically, H King. But in saying that, H King's quality is definitely risen.
Mm-hmm.
Ian really took that brand to the next level. It was a mediocre brand, and it was sort of worked, and the functionality and price was right. But then Ian sort of really boosted that product up. He turned H King around. Like, it was, and you could nearly say that the product, or you could say that the product is compared with Durafly in quality.
Very cool.
They're not that far behind it. Yeah, and it's a testament to Ian's work with H King for sure, because he did a lot of work trying to get that brand to work well, and had some roadblocks there as well. Like, it's hard with the Chinese market. So there was a lot of, there was an aeroplane which they brought out, the Cessna. It was called I think it had written 188 on the top of the wing, which is a different model altogether, Cessna. So the 188 is the it's like an ag flyer, agricultural flyer, the 188. Okay. And their 188 was the 182. So then they fixed the stickers and fixed it. Excuse me. They fixed the sticker on it and turned it into a 182. So yeah, very challenging. But Ian's done a great job with that range, and that aeroplane there flies really, really well. It's light wing loading, a meter wingspan, so it's a decent size airplane. Gorgeous. I think it's a meter.
It's 1100 mil. Yeah, and it's gorgeous looking.
1100, and the color scheme, the color palette there is perfect. Like that green and black with the silver in between it. It's a really nice blend, and they've done a really good job.
Surprised me that it's a 1300, really, but that's probably why it didn't really qualify as a Durafly. But still, gorgeous airplane. Really impressed me.
Yeah, and even I know there was a few of these that were coming through this smaller civilian style of airplane, which we were, I helped Ian, we worked together on back in the day, and some nice airplanes to come through from Hobby King. So that one did sneak up on, I think it snuck up on Ian as well, but it was that's a very nice looking airplane for sure.
Yeah. So, and I'm just showing real quickly the earlier we were talking about the KI-43 Oscar 88-inch wingspan monster airplane.
Yeah, that's and I've got some big airplanes. Don't get me wrong, and but it's if you were to compare that with the price of Seagull, for instance, yeah, or there's a huge price difference. Like that, the Fokker D7 that they brought out, which
Mm-hmm.
was
Yeah.
like like a very, very nice aeroplane and flew beautifully, and you could set that up on anything you wanted to, gas or electric or any of that sort of stuff. But it was a fantastic, very big aeroplane, very, extremely well designed, flew, to every envelope you could push through it. And yeah, but that aeroplane there, like the Japanese, that I don't know, you love or hate the Japanese. The Axis airplanes don't sell as well as the Allied aircraft.
Yeah.
So you really need to pick your market there. But that aeroplane there it just
Beautiful.
looks
Yeah.
mean. It looks fast, and it's a very attractive aeroplane. The color scheme, I didn't think that they would go with that color scheme because it is a very it's a unique color scheme. Good, and yeah, but it really shows up well, like in the videos and stuff. The way that thing flies is very neat. But yeah, an expensive model, but that they all are. That's what you pay for. So yeah, it's but back onto what I would buy.
Yeah.
We'll go back full circle.
Yeah.
What I would buy, my next EDF will definitely be the FMS Hawk. I've seen that thing fly, and I think that's a very nice looking airplane,
Cool.
and it flies really well. So my next EDF will be that. My next gas plane, don't know, no idea. If we're talking gas, I've got no idea. But the next balsa plane will probably be I've got the Yak 3 Steadfast from Seagull, so that will probably be the next one on the list. But in between that, I've also got a multiplex Twin Star.
Yes, sir. I saw photos of that and I laughed. Wow, what a find.
So my youngest boy said I want it because he was flying a drone. He said I want to fly an airplane. So I said, okay, let's put it together because I've had it in the box for a while, and yeah, let's put it together. So I'm starting to put it together and realised that it's got old brushless motors and not sorry, old brushed motors. So we'll update that to brushless motors and we'll set it up and get him to fly it. And I've seen another one fly at the club and they fly really, really well.
Yes.
Also,
Yep.
it'll be a good learner. So
Yep. Cool.
um, yeah, but there's definitely a lot. There's been a lot to come through in the last sort of 6 months since I've been, 6 or so months since I've been away from the hobby, from the industry. There's been a lot of new products come through, which has been fantastic. Like, everyone's been busy, all the manufacturers have been busy. I mean, Hobby King's popped out models left, right, and centre.
Mm-hmm.
And, Motion RC has been very active and very busy. It's been good to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And E-Flight.
Yeah.
And E-Flight has been. E-Flight's just out of control. I don't know what
Yeah,
they've got, and some really cool products, like different products. Like their Phantom is amazing. I've seen that and seen it fly, and I was just, in comparison to the Freewing one, the Freewing's probably more detailed and bigger and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, but
how's that one to track?
flyability,
Do you find the gray a little too light? That's my
look,
I don't have a love span for gray.
I'm colorblind, so everything's great.
That's true. That's true.
So yeah, I mean when you fly, I don't know, like I've flown down to the a small rifle which was an extremely fast airplane to to some of the bigger EDFs and actually the MiG 17, which was a bit of a challenge when we first flew that. I remember when Ian first flew it, and that camouflage sort of got him because it was the wrong way around, and he was like, "Oh well," and then he was like, "No, I'm back." So our orientation was a little bit, but we've got mountains and at our field that sort of when you fly really low and fast, if you've got a camouflaged aeroplane, it just blends into the hills, and you're kind of like, "Oh no, it's gone." And then it pops back up again. You're like, "Oh, there it is."
Yeah. We got the trees when I come in for final, and I lost the commander in the fall because the canopy is all red, right? The tree background's all red, and the commander literally went gone. And I'm like, oh, on final.
Yeah. But build a giant scale. Yeah, I've got a big Red Baron, a Fokker triplane. Where is it? In the shed somewhere. I don't know. It's there's plenty. There's probably about another 50 airplanes in front of that when I finally get to do it. The Tiger Moth is sort of needs to get done first.
Yeah.
That's and that is. I'll show you. The Tiger Moth. It needs to do some justice. So I'll just pull some parts away here so I can get to it. The seats are sort of things are falling off it. And we're going to do this. I'll be back. Oh no!
Now you're committed.
I've lost my sound.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, that's it.
Look at that thing. That is gorgeous. So, again, what's the manufacturer for that?
This was made by Greens Models.
Okay, look at so I'm just gonna go along with the audio end of it too. So this thing is a huge wingspan.
And I'll just if I can just get it in there.
Yep.
There we go.
Look at the detail. Look at that. Will the control surfaces react like the joystick, the control joystick? Not too much effort.
No.
Keeping it simple.
It's just to keep it. It's huge, like it's ridiculous, and it's taken a long time to pull it apart and to. Hang on a second, I've just got to swing it around so I don't hit anything. Yeah, and it is.
Wow.
Yeah, and you can see up the top here. It's got. If I turn it this way, it's got all the fuel lines and everything and that sort of stuff, which is
details. Yeah.
It's very cool, and I'm just going to lean over again if I can not break anything.
That's huge.
And I'll bring my microphone in because I just pulled my microphone off the desk. That was that big bang that you heard. There we go, we're back.
Oh, that looks gorgeous. You know what? So something like that would probably convince me that I want to do, balsa, and
I'll just
look at that. Look at that. The wings. So that's interesting. So for those who can't see this because they're listening to the podcast. So the wings, Steve has, it's a 2-meter plane. So the wings are in half, but the upper half and the lower half are joined together still. So.
Yeah, so there's sorry, I just had a massive crash in my microphone. Oh. So that's the, so there's two wings and it's joint in the center.
Okay.
And you probably can't see it in there.
Well,
but
I'm seeing it.
And just in there, how am I going to do this? I might just have to swing it around so you can't see me for a second. And if I swing that part,
I see all the cable rigging and everything. Yeah.
And on there is an actual functioning airspeed indicator.
Oh, cool.
Don't know if you can see that on top of that. Just in there, and it actually works. So it actually functions as a true airspeed
Look at that.
indicator. So
just a little catch in the wind, and it just moves around. Oh, I see. So you've got some balsa, you've got some wood attached to the wing, and you pull that off, and then slap the wings together and it all joins. So it's like a 3-piece wing. So the center on the fuselage has got the spars into it, and then the other 2 pieces join up. So that is pretty amazing.
Yeah, so hang on a second, I'm just moving out of the way. So there's a center section.
Look at that.
So that'd be the center section.
The bottom.
Your 2 wings will bolt onto there, and that'll sit, and that'll sit in between, and at the bottom of the wing. So but there's Greens models. They used to be around. You can pick the models up now and again, but it's very rare. Yeah, I mean, very, very
gorgeous. Success.
Yeah, my dad just opened up the door and said, "Did you show him the cockpit?" I said, "Yes, Dad. Showed him the cockpit."
That's awesome. That is awesome looking.
So that's some of the stuff that I've working with Dad, and he's been doing bits and pieces. I'm actually sitting in my dad's workshop. So if you have a look around, there's so many things in here. It's like it's a spare room in my dad's house, and it's got plenty of things in here. It's amazing. It's a heaps of stuff in here.
Bill Decker still thinks, Bill Decker's like, yeah, you need to build a large-scale balsa. So my problem, Bill, is I got to be able to get this stuff into my car, and I'd be terrified of just, I don't know, I feel like I'm a foam electric guy, and, who loves to scratch build with uh, with foam board, or when my mind starts coming up with neat, wicked ideas into the winter when I'm a little stir crazy. But you never know what's going to happen, because I guess that would be the cool part, and that's why a couple of the guys really are like, you should try this again. I mean, my Sig was a long time ago. My LT40 was a long time ago, and a project like that, Steve, would probably be something you could just say, okay, this is what I'm going to build in the winter, and just go at it bit by
Yeah.
bit. So we'll see.
But with the new ARFs, like the design of the new ARFs is a lot better than what they used to be as well. Sorry, I'm just moving a microphone here. That's better. Yeah, the ARF, the way that they're built now in comparison to what they used to be, it has changed.
Yeah.
So the speed in which you can put them together is a lot quicker. Yeah. The hardware is a lot better. They've like you look at the latest, like that Beechcraft Baron from Hobby King, for instance, and when I opened it up and went through it, it's actually really, really, really well made. It's really nice. So
we'll see what happens, man. Because I've got all the power pack off that giant 3D printed Spitfire. That's a 55. Yeah. It's a 50. It's almost the same power plant as in the GT Tundra. So it's got a lot of punch.
Back in the day, Hobby King decided to go with a plug and fly ARF, and it was a Balsa Ryan, and they also did a Filzer Staunch, like the Luftwaffe Staunch.
Yes.
And they came out with motor, ESC, the servos. All you did was basically put it together, and it was something that was trialed. And if Hobby King, if you're listening, do it again, because I really think that market hasn't been touched by anybody. Oh. ARFs are still there, and they're expensive, and they're produced. And then you've got to put all your electronics and your package together and get it to fly, because you want to customize it, I suppose. But I really think that option of having an ARF as a plug and fly is something that just hasn't been touched on yet. And so I don't know why.
A balsa plug and fly.
I don't know why that hasn't been done.
Fascinating.
I mean, it's probably... like, why not have a balsa cub, for instance?
Yeah.
That's 2 meter wingspan that comes ready to fly, and all you do is just...
Yeah, that's true.
Bolt.
That's true. That's interesting.
I don't know why that market hasn't been tapped, and I don't know if there is a market there, to be honest. There may not be, because a lot of guys that build stuff and build ARFs want to put their own stuff in it. So, yeah. But then there's guys that don't have the time. And that's the reason why we fly foam aeroplanes so quick, because we want to fly that next thing fast. So maybe there is a market there. Maybe there is.
Fascinating. All right, you know what we're going to do now, Steve? Hot seat questions, man. So you know the drill, right? I'm going to ask you some real questions. I don't have a bell yet. I got to get myself a ding. So these are fast, rapid fire. You can elaborate if you want.
Before we go into it, Bill Decker asked, how's the monkey bike? And the monkey bike has 6,000 kilometers on it.
Holy
I've owned it now for a year, just on a year.
That's not bad.
And every time I get on that bike, I laugh. Every time I look at myself on that bike, I think it's the funniest thing I've ever done in my life. It has given me, and I still, from Honda, I don't want anything for this, by the way. This is all free advertising. But anyone who needs a motorbike, seriously go and buy a monkey bike. It is the best thing you're ever going to put between your legs.
Oh, man.
It is fantastic.
Oh, I think I just got the title for the show. And the boys, I'm reading the comments. I'm reading the comments too. We'll talk about the bike, and we'll jump into the stuff here. And then,
yeah, no, actually, I caught up with Simon from Hobby King, and he's got a smaller Grom, which is the a sports bike equivalent of the monkey bike, and we did a charity ride together. So that was good to catch up with him and dress up in onesies and drive around the city and have a lot of fun and raise money for Starlight Charity, which is one of the charities here in Australia for kids. It was awesome. We had a really good time. 600 bikes all together, and yeah.
What costume were you in, Steve? What costume?
Well, of course, I was dressed up in a monkey suit.
And what did you have to do with your tail?
Oh, I had to cut it off because I got a cord in the chain. It's very funny. So there were a few monkeys there, and and some of us had motorbikes. So yeah, no, it was good fun. It was good.
Cool. Yeah, the boys are suggesting that I sell my beloved GT6, my 1968 Triumph GT6, for a frickin' minivan. I know where you all live.
No, no. That's
No,
yeah, no,
no, I would
no.
never live it down. All right, hot seat questions. Number one,
Sure.
we got 38 questions. I don't know how many I'm going to ask you, but the first one on the list, and these are questions submitted
38.
a few by me, the rest are by by podcast fans.
All right.
Number 6 is do
Yep.
belly or wheels?
Wheels.
Wheels? Awesome.
Hate belly landers.
Really?
Belly landers are for. Ah,
Really?
go away with your belly lander. No, look, they serve a purpose, like an EFX, for instance.
Mhm.
If I've seen landing gear on
Uh-oh.
an
Steve, there you
EFX.
go.
I need to have landing gear on an EFX, just belly land it. Sorry, my phone's ringing.
That's
Hang
yeah,
on a second.
you glitched for a second there.
Sorry. Yep. Are we back?
You're back. You're back. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, belly landers serve a purpose, but they're not my thing. Like for instance, the Buffalo was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I designed the Buffalo. It's a belly lander, and it worked and served a purpose. But for my own aeroplanes, I like to have landing gear, especially with aircraft that need landing gear. For instance, like a jet. Yeah, I like it to have landing gear.
Yep.
It's just one of those things. So, yeah.
Cool. Do you call airplanes drones? Ooh.
No.
Nope. Cool. They're airplanes.
No,
Yep.
I don't.
Right there with you,
I don't
man.
even call it. I don't even call a drone a drone. Like if I've got a DJI, yeah, I've got the Mavic, and I don't call it a drone. That's just a toy. I wouldn't call it a drone. A drone to me is a military thing that fires weapons. That's a drone to me.
Cool.
Yep.
What would you do? Hold on here. I gotta get this so I can see what I'm doing here. What would you change about the hobby if you could?
Wow, what could I change about the hobby if I could? What could I change about the hobby if I could? Oh, that's a really good question. What could change about the hobby if I could? Man, I love the hobby way too much to change it. I don't think there is anything you can change it. I think it develops all the time and it evolves all the time. I think there's always new technology that comes in to say to change the hobby. Don't know. It's hard to say. It'd be great to put manufacturing back into countries where you buy your product from, but that's impossible. Like for instance, if you were to have manufacturing in Australia and also in America that could build an airplane for the same price you could do it in China and then have it shipped and then have that cottage industry, but it's impossible. It's way too cheap to do it out of China. But it's yeah, I don't. I like the way the hobby evolves, and I like the new technology that comes in with these hobbies. Like for instance, foam aircraft over the last 10 years has changed. Not even that. I'd say 2 years has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
The density of the foam, the quality of the product that you get now in comparison to what you used to get is just amazing. It's just and it changes every time a new airplane is released. There's something new. And that gives other companies to bounce off and then to evolve and change and to update and to get better. So there's,
Cool.
nothing really. Actually, there is something I want to change.
Okay.
I want a new transmitter so I don't have to use my thumbs anymore. I don't know what that is. I've got no idea. But make it for me, the guys out there, or whatever it is. The whole two-stick thing is just, it seems too 1980s. Let's change it to something. I don't know what that is. But
not your phone. Please, not your phone.
Something.
God, no, not your phone, right?
No.
That the whole textile thing just drives me crazy.
I've got the new iX12 from Spectrum,
mm-hmm.
and it's Android based, and you can turn all the functionality off, which is the best thing about that whole product is you can turn. I don't need to Google. I don't need to listen to Spotify. It's a transmitter, and I do understand the angle that they went there, but it is a little bit unnecessary to have Google Maps on my transmitter.
Yep.
So
good point.
Yeah, technology is good. When you go too far, it becomes a little bit silly.
Hellcat or Corsair?
Oh, that's a good one. That bent wing devil. Wow, that is a good looking airplane. The Hellcat served a purpose, but I find it fairly vanilla. I find that aeroplane boring to look at. I've had a Balsa Hellcat. Don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic aeroplane and it won the war and all that sort of stuff. But the Corsair just has that look and
Yeah.
has that aggressive sort of bent wing. So I'd have to say, or yeah, it's a good one, but I'd definitely say the Corsair.
Right with you there, buddy. All right, your absolute favorite RC experience.
Oh, my
Man,
absolute favorite RC experience. Wow.
I know I'm
Um,
stuffing you today. I love these questions.
yeah, no, they are really, really good. My absolute favorite RC, I would have to say, that's a really good question. Just trying to think of, yeah, I would have to say watching the guys at my club teach their kids how to fly.
Nice.
And I would say that the best experience there would be, yeah, definitely would be to see, to be involved at the club, the level I'm in now, being the president, and to watch new members come in and fly. I would say that would be, out of all of it, out of all the fun stuff, would be to watch a new, younger guy or girl, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
to fly that aeroplane their first time is amazing. And to do that landing and to watch a young kid nail that landing and do it properly, and him walking away with that look of like, I did that. That would probably be the best feeling of an RC.
Awesome.
And that's why we have a club culture the way we do, and that's why we have probably one of the, and I'll say this because I'm the president, but it is the best club in Australia. It is without doubt. The members make it, and it happens all the time. Every day I go out there and I see something new, but that's, yeah, the best. But to say the best moment for myself in RC would probably be when I put the MiG-21 through a fence. Yeah, definitely. No, I've flown that many airplanes, and I've been involved in it that long. I'd suppose it would be, I don't know, probably my first RC Spitfire, because I love a Spitfire. It's probably the best airplane in the world. Don't care what anyone says. That wing, and to be in control of an RC Spitfire would my first one probably, and I think it would have been an Arctec Spitfire. Would have been the first Spitfire I flew.
Nice.
And it was, probably not the best looking Spitfire, but still to fly that around and say that I'm flying it, be that. So yeah. Yeah.
Bill Decker just asked me, what's my favorite sugar-free ice cream flavor? Or even go ahead, Steve, what would be yours?
Oh, there wouldn't be one. You can't have sugar-free
Hey,
anything.
dude.
It
Dude,
kills
man, it kills me every time. Yeah,
I know.
I've been lucky enough to find some stuff
Absolutely.
so I could actually have an ice cream this summer. But yeah, it kills me. It absolutely kills me. My answer would probably be mint chocolate chip.
The old mint chocolate
I love
chip.
mint. Yeah. And while you contemplate your ice cream flavor, I'll feed into that favorite thing. So I've probably got about 2 or 3, and one of them was mentioned here. I love when the guys come up to visit for, we call it our mini Flight Fest North. That's pretty special. You know, that Laura tolerates a bunch of RC guys, and our collective age is 11, and we go out, we have a good old time. Obviously, Flight Fest has become a very special thing for me, because that's a huge source of pride. And then on the family end of it, I haven't given up on my kid flying with me. I think one day James will figure it out and he'll come flying. But I still love being able to
I
fly with
think
my dad. You know.
yeah, that's always good. Like my dad doesn't fly because his eyesight isn't the best, but he loves the hobby, and he's still a very active member. And every time I fly and I crash, the disappointment in his face is more than mine.
Because he knows he's got to
I
rebuild
don't know
it.
how many times. Yeah, he has to rebuild it. So, but in hindsight, I'm giving him work to do,
Yep.
so he should be happy. But
Right.
no, it's always good. Like we go to the club and we might fly, a couple of times, but then we talk, and it's. But yeah, the same thing. I'd love to get my kids more involved in the hobby, I know that they're probably saturated with it, so they just don't like it, or they've probably got other things to do, like video games are more important.
I think you know what I
But I
think,
definitely.
Steve. They're gonna come along. I've got a feeling that
Oh
eventually,
yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's
well,
going to
yeah.
be, because I'm the same way. I'm like, if my dad could have afforded to let me fly at that age, I would have been on all over it. But they've got other things
But
right now.
yeah,
But I think they're gonna come to it.
but in saying that, when we were kids, it was a lot more expensive, and it was a lot harder. We had to build
Mm-hmm.
all the stuff yourself, and then you crashed, and then you had to rebuild it
Yeah.
all again. And the ARF, I mean, plug and fly kits just weren't there. And now, you have access to
These
good
guys
technology. I mean, you've got stuff that works, like safe technology, and gyros, which helps you fly.
and flight.
When you're starting out, that's always good to have,
Yep.
because you give you that confidence to continue to fly. Um, yeah,
And then the flight
but
test kits, like the kudos to them.
ah,
Kudos
you
for
can't-
building airplanes that we giggle. All right, great. I just trashed a $10 airframe. Let's just transfer that to a
yeah,
new one in
that's
an
it.
hour. So yeah.
Yep, yep.
Um,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that sort of stuff. And flight tests have been around for a long time now, and their aircraft. Every time you see, and then that's another fun part of the hobby as well, is that you can have the most expensive aeroplane pull up with the most expensive trailer and have the most expensive transmitter, but you'll have more fun out of flying a $10
yep.
cup,
Yeah.
cardboard box than what you ever will, and you'll probably get more looks at that aeroplane because it's bizarre and it's unusual and it flies and you're having more fun. So it's yeah, it's
I know. This hobby is pretty cool. Okay, ice cream flavor. Come on, come on.
oh, it'd have to just be vanilla. I'm very plain.
What? Oh man,
Yeah,
very plain.
yeah.
All right, all right.
I see my grandfather was one of the funniest men you're ever going to meet, and he used to put cordial, which is like a syrup,
Mm-hmm.
on top of the ice cream,
Mm-hmm.
and that was his flavoring because
Vanilla is
I don't
too
know, he was
vanilla.
just. But yeah, it's very very funny. But yeah, it's yeah. If I was to go to an ice cream shop, good vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
That'll
Oh,
do
I
that.
get it. Yeah, pure brand, but versus store. Yeah, I gotcha. All right. Tricycle gear or tail dragger?
Uh,
Do 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 do.
uh it depends. I'd say tail dragger
Yeah.
because all like all the cool airplanes are tail draggers.
Bingo.
Like, yeah, and then that's if you were to look at like a decathlon Tiger Moth, Tundra, we'll chuck a Spitfire in the mix. A P-51 Mustang, one of the legend of World War II, is a tail dragger. So I can just say, yeah, tail dragger. The 262 was originally a tail dragger.
I saw photos of
Go.
that. I thought it was the weirdest thing in the world.
It is the weirdest thing in the world to see a 262 with a tail wheel running down the runway and then going up on the mains and then take off. It's like, that's odd.
Yeah, that's gonna be terrifying to land and take off in that setup. Actually, Kermit Weeks was showing. Is it an L1?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
and he
yep,
was explaining the difference in the motor and the work they have to do
yep.
because the oil, when it drains down, goes to the bottom cylinders and into the head, and they can do damage if they don't bleed the oil out because it's too much compression to the exhaust, man. I'm like, whoa. And he says it's because it's the tail dragger. If it wasn't a tail dragger, then it would. I'm like, okay, that's just, but,
Yeah.
yeah, that's.
If you see the Kermit Weeks video where he did the oh, by the way, Kermit Weeks is a complete legend of aviation. What a champion that bloke is. But he's got a video of I think it's the Sopwith Snipe biplane,
Mm-hmm.
where he's flying along and he shows how to land with the button for the throttle to give you power, and how to slowly like blip the engine as it comes into land. Fantastic video. If you haven't seen that, watch it. And he also did a walk around with the Mustang. I think it's like 3 parts where he does a complete walk around startup of a Mustang, and then he flies the Mustang and you're in the cockpit with him. What a video. If you're a Mustang fan or any aeroplane fan, that video I've seen it about, I think he's had 2 million views, and I'd be up to be nearly 2 million. I think it's me that's watched that video more than anyone else.
Well, speaking of which, question number 14, Mustang or Spitfire?
Um, If you want to get right into the nitty gritty of it, the only reason a Mustang's good is because it's got a Spitfire engine.
Boom. I flew.
Before they put a Spitfire engine in the Mustang, it was a POS. Let's face
Yeah.
it, it was Allison powered. It was
Oh,
useless, no supercharger. It was okay to drop bombs with it, maybe low level. Then when they gave it a real motor, it really showed its true Mustang.
I
And that's all I've
managed
got to
to
say about
actually,
that.
speaking of Mustangs, over the past weekend, I pulled out the Durafly Mustang again and I flew it. And
Yeah.
oh my, the first flight it was dropping wings and I'm like, what is going on? So I fiddled around with the
Yeah.
controls. I actually jacked up the expo and I realized that I think one of my ailerons was sitting lower than the other one. So in a turn it kept dumping the nose over and it was in that color. It's the old it's not the Crow, it's the oh shoot, Frankie.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yep, yep.
that paint scheme on that plane and I don't get along. And so I was flying actually with my glasses and it made a difference. And I just pinned the power. I want to try that airplane on 4S because I'm not running the 10
Yep,
bladed
yep,
prop, the 4 bladed prop. And I want to try it on
yep.
4S and see if it handles it a little better because I did put a bigger ESC into it and just see if it gives me that little extra punch to keep it stable. And then one day, I swear to gosh, I'm going to go to Callie's Graphics. She's got a Canadian RCAF color scheme. So it's all
Yep,
silver,
yep,
black nose top, and then there's some RCF
yep.
decals. And I think I would track that airplane a little nicer, I think.
Yeah, but you just can't beat that wing of the Spitfire. It's that elliptical wing. It's the whole. I grew up watching the Battle of Britain, so that movie is just the best war movie ever made. And just to watch that Spitfire fly, and if I remember the first time I saw a Spitfire, a Mustang at an air show is a Mustang at an air show, but a Spitfire at an air show is unique, especially in Australia where we've only got two that fly.
Yeah.
And for a long time, we only had one that flew. And when I first saw the Mustang, I remember just thinking like, yeah, that's the reason why I like airplanes. So definitely, the Mustang was a better airplane, no doubt. You can't really say that, but the Mustang had its reasons why it was a better
Yeah.
airplane. It had the endurance, but to say that a Mark 9 Spitfire could be outflown by a Mustang, don't agree. Neither would anyone that flew a Mustang or a Spitfire. But anyway, definitely the Mustang had its place and it won the war in Germany. So you would have to say that the Mustang has its place, but the Spitfire is a better airplane. Full stop.
Cool. Full stop. Nice.
Next.
Next. What was your most expensive crash? I love
Um,
these questions.
yeah, no, my most expensive crash. Gee. We'll count Hobby King out of the mix because the test aeroplanes are expensive and the R&D that goes into the aircraft is pretty expensive. So my own personal crash would be most expensive. I would have to say would be the Yak 130,
Mm,
which is just recently owned. And that's, I don't know how much that costs in the States, but in Australia it's around about $1,000
yeah.
Australian. And yeah, I put that in, and everyone thought it was my own fault, but it was flying. Basically, what I like to do with my EDFs is to do one low pass, pitch up, drop the gear in the flaps, and then come downwind, base leak, and come in and land. It's one of my things that I do. It's just like a normal airplane. And remember I was flying it around about 20 feet off the ground, full throttle, and I went to pitch up, and the airplane just rolled slowly into the ground and just smashed straight in the middle of the runway. So
That had to make
no,
a gorgeous sound.
it made a solid thump. It was a proper crash, and pride dented, everything ruined. Went out and picked all the bits up, and yes,
You're still
um,
bitter.
build it. Oh, I've still got, yeah. It happens, and it's part of the hobby. You can't, not fly an RC plane and expect it to have an issue or a crash. Like
Hmm.
I've flown planes into trees, into each other, but that one there really, a lot of people were watching, and it was a showstopper of a plane. It's a big airplane, and it takes up a lot of, like when it flies, the Yak 130. It's a really cool plane to watch. It's a very chunky, very fat looking
Yeah.
airplane. And when it went in, um, someone just said, "All fixable with minimal money, no experience." Yeah, I could fix it. The Yak 130 could be fixed with new parts and everything else, but I think it's better to let it go.
put the parts in something else. Well, or grab what's salvageable and put it into another airframe.
Uh, I do like the aeroplane, and I probably will buy another one eventually. But yeah, it's one of those things. Just move
Cool.
on. Next one. Bill Decker said, "Would Steve ever build a large fire?" No, I never would. As much as I love the Spitfire, you can't have. I haven't seen many Spitfires that look good.
Yeah.
A lot of Spitfires miss the mark. The Avios Spitfire is very close, but you wouldn't do it justice. So I wouldn't want to build one myself.
Yeah. And it's funny because I almost snagged one for my own collection, and then I thought I'd have to store that thing. And like I've got the FMS Mustang, and it's a beautiful plane, but they take up in my Lancaster, but they take up a considerable amount of space in that you're never going to disassemble that wing. You're never going to take that plane apart. So you've got to be prepared. So it's got to be one of those planes that fly often. And I'm like, would I fly it nearly enough? So that's why I kind of like the Durafly scale airplanes, because when I'm in the mood to fly, I can put two or three of those in the car and go.
And the Durafly Spitfire is probably, Tom Hunt did it and Stuart did a perfect job on that airplane. Like that. Sorry, my dad's just walked in the door.
All right, just listening.
Just listening. The Durafly Spitfire is perfect in scale and representation of a Spitfire flying around. You can't get better. There's no E-Flight tried a couple of times. Free Wing have tried, doesn't quite hit the mark. The Durafly one is perfect.
Yeah. I love my Mark 1.
And
absolutely love my Mark 1.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the Mark 1 is a fantastic looking airplane. I think it's the best looking, the baby Spitfire as it's called. It's probably the best looking Spitfire out of all of them. And the Mark 5 looks okay because it looks like a Mark 1, and the Mark 9 looks all right, but it's it's a bit longer in the nose, and that genuine, the original Mark 1, Mark 2 Spitfire is probably, the quintessential Spitfire when you have a look at them. It is the mark that
we shouldn't.
Sorry, my dad's just closed the door.
And we shouldn't forget about the Seafire.
Well, yeah, the Seafire, that was a lot of fun. That was.
You know what I love about that plane, Steve? That's the one that I want. If I want to go out and just hound a Spitfire to death, that's the one I take.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot of fun to do. And we had so many comments of hate. It was hilarious. It was really, like you see these, why, how dare you do that to a Spitfire? I was like, you just need to relax. I think from memory, it was one of the better selling Spitfires out of the Durafly range.
Because you know what? People bought it, went, great, this is something I can just have fun or repaint it in my own scheme. Yeah, there's tons of options.
Yeah.
So question number 16, Steve, is self-taught or instructed?
Oh, wow. Most of it was self-taught for a bit. I did have a few instructors. I did have those people to help out, but I made my own mistakes. Definitely made my own mistakes. Probably the way that I teach people now, I would have loved to have been taught back in the day. So no, I didn't have a full-time instructor, and I made my own mistakes and learned from that.
Same. That's what I loved when I came back into the hobby. I mean, that little Fly Zone Tiger Moth on 1S. What a way to come back. And it's funny because that plane still lives on. And what a way to reintro myself and learn the basics all over again and everything. So
I came back into foam with a Venom Island Hopper.
So that would have been a Cubbish kind of looking thing, or a seaplane-ish?
Yeah, really, really bad, like a Cessna. It was really bad, really ugly, and I think it had like I can't remember the color scheme now. It was just stickers on a white plane, but it was really bad. Nike had batteries, the works. It was awesome. Man.
Oh man, so you're really mushy power.
Yeah, it was. And then I remember upgraded it to brushless and was like, wow, this thing's a rocket. And then had big wheels on it. Yeah, it was funny. Yep. But yeah, then because I've been out of the hobby for a while, and then a good friend of mine actually got me back into it again, and he said, "Let's go flying RC planes to the local park," and then that's where we all that is history, as they say.
All right. I love this question. Absolutely adore this question. Velcro. Fuzzy side on the battery or on the fuselage?
Oh wow, fuzzy side on the battery.
Really? Really?
Yeah,
See, I do
yeah,
I do like the. So, are you talking the soft foam, soft Velcro?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, good.
So you got the male and the female part of the Velcro,
Yes.
and the male part is the hard part, and the
Yeah.
soft part is the female part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I put the soft part on my batteries.
Okay. Anything? Yeah.
There.
Anything going into the fuselage because the rationale is that the hard one tracks everything, so you end up with all kinds of stuff stuck to your battery before you put it into the plane.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Cool.
But I generally don't like to use that much Velcro in my aircraft. Like I'd rather put the non-slip stuff and then a few battery straps for the bigger planes.
Yeah.
I've had in the past where I've put that Hobby King blue Velcro and laid it down in the bottom of a tray, and then gone to pull the battery out and pulled the whole tray out. And just gone, like, what?
Great.
So
Now I gotta fix this whole thing. Yeah. That's awesome.
yeah, it's like really.
Yeah. I've.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I tend to actually. I tend to actually still use Velcro. The problem you get with sometimes too is you put it in the plane and then you got to try and get your fingers in around the battery straps, and I don't
Yeah.
get along. I have to say. I know they serve a good purpose, and on the bigger batteries, I like Velcro and strap. But I find
Yep.
I waste more time getting a battery into that Yak 130 than I actually fly it. Like it takes me longer to put the battery in than the 3.5 minutes of flight time. But that's
That's one thing about the L39 is the 5006S.
Mm-hmm.
At the back of the battery bay, there's just a piece of foam that goes like that at the back of the for the landing gear, and I think it's the landing gear, and you can just mount it up, just put it up against the back of that, down, strap it over, and you've got this massive amount of space. It
Yeah.
is just set perfectly for a 5006S. It just fits the spot. So
Nice. I know I can get a
Yeah.
62 into my Hawk, so I'm kind of curious to see how it's going to fly. I want
Yeah.
Again, I want to try the 45 and the 62s. Question number 7.
But then,
Go ahead.
Yep. No, you're right. Number 7. We're at number 7.
Number 7. I'm just looking at our total show time and everything, and I don't want to keep you. It's your Saturday morning. You're supposed to be flying, and here's Andre Yak.
No,
it's good.
No, we've got like 50-kilometer winds outside.
Oh
so
well,
it's-
geez, we'll just keep playing along. Okay,
Yeah.
number
No, number
7,
seven.
pre-built or builder?
Pre-built.
Who's got time to
No,
build, right? Yeah, no.
Like I would love to, and I've got plans left, right, and centre for everything. Like if I was to open that drawer behind me, there's plans in there which would, and I'll actually show you some, which would blow your mind. Actually, I can't open the drawer. I forget about it.
Everything will fly apart.
In that drawer, I've got everything from. And there's so many plans in there that my dad's got over the years, and we've sat down and gone like, let's build some stuff. I just don't have the time at the moment.
Mhm.
I would love to. I would dead set love to make some aircraft. There's some airplanes out there which need to be built. One of the airplanes that I would love to build is an airplane called the Pond Racer. It was built by Rutan, what's his name? The guy that built the Rutan Defiant. It was designed as a racer for Reno Air Races, and it's called the Pond Racer. It is unreal, and I wanted to build it as an airplane with Durafly, and I kept getting knocked back left, right, and centre. So, yeah, definitely want to build a pond. So Google Pond Racer, and you will understand what I mean. It had 2 Nissan 6-cylinder turbocharged engines, and this thing is just. It is awesome. I think it is one of the best looking airplanes ever made. No one will agree with me, but it's very cool.
Cool. Actually, maybe we'll drill into that topic. Actually, I think we want to save that for another show. But just we'll talk. I'd love to just discuss some of the ideas you had over the years trying to develop and everything. But
yeah,
we'll do a few more questions. Maybe we'll go into that. But we're approaching almost 10 o'clock. But it's been a good show so far. So, question number 8 is pinch or thumb.
Half and half.
Half and half, ditto. I do my thumb on my throttle stick, which gets me into trouble sometimes, and then I pinch on my ailerons, which is fine.
My throttle, because I'm mode 2, the only mode properly as I like to call it. Throttle on my left hand side, obviously, and I just use my thumb with the rudder, and that works really well. But I have to pinch on my other side because my thumb shakes too much. So I've learnt to pinch, and I've actually learnt to control aileron and elevator better if I pinch. So it's a controlled response. So I've learnt to fly that way.
Nice.
And the only reason is because my right thumb, for some reason, it's had a few injuries or whatever, and it just doesn't function properly. So that's the reason why I crashed a lot. So yeah, it's my thumb. But no, I've had to learn to actually to pinch on my right hand side.
Oh, interesting.
So,
interesting.
there you go.
Yeah. I don't even know. Someone noticed that one day on one of my videos, and I'm like, I don't know. That's just how I hold the remote. I think what it allows me, because it lets my throttle up and a little bit of rudder control.
I just read the comments, and my son's like, "Do you want a cup of tea or coffee?"
I've been laughing at that. Yes, I've been seeing that.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of, I don't know. I mean, I guess you pick up a remote. I find though the handicap in the way I do it is sometimes I struggle to get to my darn switches for gear up and everything, and I'm like, You know what? You know what the radio commands need? We need we need voice assistant.
Control.
Yes, gear up, gear going up.
Could you imagine?
Everybody in the field.
Your mate standing next to you going, "Gear down," and you'd be like, "Stop it!
Stop it! Gear down, full flaps. Damn it!"
That
would be funny.
Well, here's one for you. My flaps are always on a dial switch, so I actually control the flaps by introducing them slowly. Yeah. And my gear is always at the top left-hand side at one of the longer switches.
See, I use that as my kill switch. That's funny. I use that one as my kill switch.
On the back is my kill switch, but the one at the top is next to your flaps is my landing gear. So anyway, if you really want to,
I control everything off with my right hand. I don't like to take my hand off the throttle for whatever reason. I don't know. And it would probably take me longer to relearn than just deal with it. But I tend to try now on my radio. So with my FR Sky, I've always got the flaps or modes on the same switch and the rates on one and the gear. And I don't know, it just works. But it's like I've had it, and then you get in there with a transmitter mitt, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna fly basic here because I can't reach my darn flaps. It's good.
That's it.
It's good. It's good. All right, number 19. I love this question as well. What is your go-to plane?
Oh, here we go.
Go-to, absolute. It will come with you almost everywhere you go now.
I don't have a go-to plane.
Really? That surprises me.
I've got too many.
Wow. Yeah.
I've got too many, so I generally try and take out my flavour of the month or whatever I've got going on at that time. But my fallback aeroplane, if I was to say have an event at the club where I needed to go and fly an aeroplane and bring an aeroplane out, is the E-Flight T-Suite Presence, and it flies really well.
Yeah.
The Sabre, which we spoke about before, which I think is just a fantastic looking aeroplane. The Sabre, that first generation aeroplane jet, is where the money is. And I don't know why they haven't done more generation. We'll get onto that later as well. That's another subject we can do. The MiG-17 that I did with Avios is that first generation jet, and sort of, compares well with the Sabre. And that was one of the reasons why I did it. But the first generation jets just beat everything hands down.
Nice.
The Sabre. And moving on from that, the Avanti has been a very popular aeroplane. Flavour is the L-39, which is behind me. That aeroplane is rock solid at the moment for me. But in saying that, I've sort of taken a bit of a push away from EDFs and gone back to propeller aeroplanes. So I'm sort of at that stage.
You go in waves too, eh? And I'm figuring I'm going to fly the jets as long as the season will let me, and then it's back into the high wing prop jobs and the belly landers and whatever can take the weather.
Yeah, I've just got airplanes come and go, and obviously, EDFs are very popular at the moment, and it seems that my club there's been an increase in EDFs and flying fast jets. It's been a lot of visually they're good fun to fly. For a skilled pilot, they can make an EDF look fantastic and really, you can nail it. It takes up a lot of sky and demands people to watch it because it makes that noise and everyone's waiting for the crash eventually. So they're, and they do. Let's admit it. I mean, stuff flying on the, really low, fast. And one of the favourite things I like to do is to turn, at nearly full throttle and do a 360-degree turn at about 10 metres off the ground. And everyone's sort of like, whoa, that's all, eventually it'll come undone. But what I used to do, one of my favourite moves was to fly directly towards myself and then at the last minute pull up in front of the crowd. But we don't do that anymore because it's just way too dangerous in case something goes wrong. But
so something could go wrong, and that's why. Yeah.
No. We just safety is key when you're flying with a lot of people at a club, and you need to, you need to understand that there's limits to put on yourself and to your equipment and that sort of stuff. So, generally speaking, I don't do that anymore because as the president of an RC club, you need to set a little bit of an example. So, I don't do it anymore. So I have to be a little bit. Don't get me wrong. Like I still fly to the edge, and I still fly things extremely hard.
Yeah, but in the airfield, no, gotcha.
Yeah, the last thing I want to do is to see someone try and replicate it who hasn't got the the ability to do it properly and pull it off, and then the airplane crashes or something like that. Yeah. So
no.
The last thing I do is to have an accident.
So this is one of my own questions. Is there a magic number as far as when you go to the field, how many planes you take with you?
Anywhere up to 4 or 5.
Really?
I generally don't like to take. I don't like to take a lot of airplanes. Sometimes I'll take 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Generally, the more you jam into I don't know. I tend. Yeah, I've done it in the past where I've taken a full carload and then you get them all out. And then by the time you set them all up and get them all done, you're sort of
out of time.
Yeah. I'd rather sit there and run 5 packs through one aeroplane, and have enough time to sort of recuperate from the next flight and just have that conversation and then go and fly or do something like that. So generally, I'll take a few aeroplanes and maximum 4. But my time mainly at the club is. Without doubt, I'll have a member come up to me and say, can you help me fly this aeroplane? Or I'll end up talking to everybody at the club, which leaves me around about 2 minutes to fly my own stuff. So generally, a whole day you can be spent out at the club talking. So, yeah. But it's, yeah.
I've gotten
to be
down
honest,
to...
the way that, I was just saying, to be honest, the way I get my aeroplanes to the field is my dad brings out the aeroplanes and I meet him there, and then he puts them together and we sit there and talk about that, and
still, that's awesome.
It is, and it's my dad loves it. He comes out there and he's got new planes, and we get out there and he sits there and watches me fly. He's still keen to get flying, but like I said, his eyesight's not the best, so it's hard for him to sort of track airplanes around. But saying that, he can outfly me, so.
Nice. Nice. I found the magic number lately has been 2 to 3. But that's and that's just the size. Depends on the size of the airplanes, and like that. My mom just kept coming out, and I'm like, okay, I gotta fly other planes, and then I'll go, okay, let's go all jets, just because then the thumbs are all hot and ready to go. And on that theme, when you pick up a new airplane, example like your L-39. Do you look at, okay, I need to get batteries for this airplane? Is there a magic number again for how many batteries would you say I'm going to allot for this particular airplane?
It's generally, you want to have, like, if you're going to have that type of airplane, you want to have 3 packs.
Yeah.
And the reason why that is that you've got, I generally don't like to charge at the field, especially a 6000 or a 5000 6S, because it'll take you unless you're really, you've got a setup to do it. It takes time to recharge it. Failure rate of batteries always happens as well. Like you might drop a cell or something might happen, or you run the battery over and it puffs or whatever it might be, and so you need to have that sort of a battery will fail eventually, so you need to have that installed. So yeah, generally 3 or 4 packs. I've got roughly, probably 10 packs that I can run through that jet, and I'll pick the best ones out and then run with that, the highest C ratings, the batteries that are working at the time, and then those other packs that I don't need those higher C ratings, I'll use on something like a T28 or the RV8 or something like that.
Cool.
EDFs, like, obviously need a higher discharge, and yeah.
Yep.
Hope that answers your question.
I think it does, because I'm about there myself, because I'm really feeling that I need some 5660 C batteries versus some of the 40s. I just feel I'm missing that punch, and it could be the weight as well, but we'll see.
But the batteries aren't cheap now. Look at a 5000 6S. Like,
it's $100.
No, you can. Yeah, you can chuck 6 of them in your basket and go to your checkout, and then go.
That's a plane. Yeah.
Well, it looks like I'm not going to buy 6 batteries.
No, and it's so no, I was and that's my feeling on my 3300 or even my 3S22s. I'm kind of like, you know what? I'm gonna milk what maybe I'm only gonna fly 2 of my good packs in the Mamba, and then the other ones are gonna be little less energy packs, and then maybe I'm just gonna have to learn not to deal with the extra punches and wait it out. So we'll see, because it's like. It's a significant amount of the budget now. Some of the packs do actually need to be refreshed, but boy, I'm with you on the cost, and particularly for if you've got to ship them in, taxes and everything. So
Bill Decker just asked if I ride my monkey bike to the field, and the answer is yes, but I don't take any aeroplanes with me, Bill. I generally go there and then I've got a little like a little holder on the back. I suppose I could put a transmitter on there if I strapped it down, but it's kind of useless for anything, to be honest.
We're gonna ask a few more questions, Steve, and I think we'll actually wrap up the show, because we're cracking that 2-hour mark. It's been good, but it's 10 o'clock, so this guy is even getting a little punch buggy tired. Number 29. What made you decide to get into the hobby? You covered this a little bit, but we'll get a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, well, my history of aviation goes back to both my grandparents were in the Air Force. They both had an attachment with airplanes. My dad used to make sure I had plastic models built when I was a kid, and I always used to help him build these plastic models, and he was always interested in aviation and take me to air shows and that sort of stuff. So that's where my link with aviation would come from, and it's more of a passion. Like, if an airplane flies over, it doesn't matter what it is, I always look at it. 80% of the times I can tell you what it is before I hear it, before I see it. Airplanes are a massive part of my life, and I just love airplanes. Don't know what it is. It's a weird thing. I don't know how I can explain it more than airplanes are a huge part. Like, if I see an airplane, it's just like yeah, that's cool. Doesn't matter what it is, and it's pretty bad when you're driving. But anyway,
yeah.
And then I always wanted to, I suppose, progress from making plastic models to RC planes, because it was just a cool thing to do. And then from there, it's just, I left the hobby for a long time, and then I came back when I had, the funds that, I was available to fly again and get back into the hobby. And then from there, it's just, I was very fortunate to work for Hobby King and to be a brand manager and to develop airplanes for, to do something that you love as a job was fantastic. And then to do what I'm doing now, which is to enjoy the hobby back again to what I do, and then fly full scale as well. Yeah. So I've been doing that for a while. So I'm learning how to do aerobatics, which is pretty full on and very expensive, but a lot of fun.
I was gonna say.
It's definitely not cheap, but to do upset stall recoveries and that sort of stuff, you can't beat that. It's real, full scale flying is just unreal. Actually, and I had a flight in L39, which inspired me to buy one. So as a gift, everyone in my family pitched in and bought me a joy flight in an L39. So I had a little L39, and then he proceeded to do 10 barrel rolls and scared the crap out of me. A lot of fun, heaps of fun. Like, if you ever get a chance to jump in a jet, do it.
Do it. Yeah.
We flew along from 300 feet to 8,000 feet in a couple of seconds, and absolutely looked over my shoulder and watched the world sort of just disappear. unreal feeling. And it was only 039. When I say only 039, it wasn't, a Super Hornet or anything like that, but this thing still has enough grunt.
Yep.
It's a 7G term where he nearly tried to nearly blacked out and all that sort of stuff. It was great. It was awesome.
Awesome.
Sensational. Yeah.
All right.
So,
Last hot seat question of the night, and then we'll do a wrap up and everything, and you can we'll whatever comments or questions from the peanut gallery we'll put in there. All right, I love this one. What was your first car? Ha ha ha! For those who don't know, Steve is a bit of a car nut as well.
Volkswagen Beetle.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's right. I've seen photos, right? You've sent photos before.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Hey, no, yep. Man. That's like, everybody knows someone who lived in that car, lived and breathed with that kind of car.
If I was like, I've got the equivalent of the SS Chevy that's sold in the States, which is a 6-litre V8 thing, which has got plenty of power and 500 horsepower, or whatever it's got. And I would swap that tomorrow for a 1963 Beetle.
But
just give it away.
You need heat.
If you look at the 63 Beetle is just and it's the equivalent of a 1957 Chev for me. Yep. Those two cars are just perfect. I've had turbo this and that and the cars, but those two cars, for some reason, a 63 Beetle just Tomorrow I'd buy one and just be happy.
Nice.
There you go.
Nice. So let's see. So that's you know what? This has been a phenomenal podcast. I'm so happy that we waited, because like I said last week, I just wouldn't have been able to do justice to this chat. And like you said, today it's blustery and windy out there, but it's been really awesome to be able to talk to you. Let's see, what do we got on my notes? Believe it or not, I'm organized and I've got my show notes, which helps me along. But
what?
Yeah, no. So again, we got our Get FAB discount that is after hours, and I think that's 8% off. No minimal, expires at the end of this year. There's some conditions. I'll put them in the link. So they've been nice to us. They're not exactly a show sponsor, but they're still doing well by us. Patreon, you guys are rocking it. Thank you so much. You're keeping it going. I owe my I gotta get the stickers out, and I'm bad. I gotta send them everywhere.
Yes, you do.
I gotta send them to you. I gotta send some Blame Andres out to friends and everything. I just gotta sit down and do it. I was supposed to do it over the long weekend, and I flew. I'm sorry. So we're gonna organize that. I've got some friends in the U.S. that have offered to do the home base and distribute all those stickers out, so they will be coming. But yeah, big thank you for you guys who've stuck around through the podcast as a Patreons. We lost some numbers, but nothing crazy, and that money is just going to be used to allow the show to go and pay for all the bills behind it and everything, the monthly fees and everything, and we'll start having some fun with it. And for those interested in the LED for the Night Radiant, Brian sent me that Blame Andre. That's without an accent on the E.
I need one of them, by the way.
You totally got to pick one up. So, do you have a Night Radiant?
Yeah,
excellent. Yeah, you know what? I haven't flown mine. Again, it's one of those airplanes that if I go to the club and I have the field and I've got an hour, the Radian could soak up the entire hour of flying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, it's wingnuttech.com. Pretty cheap. Okay. I don't know what your shipping would be like, but there's a Blame Andre coupon. Just 10% off your order.
Hey, cool.
Try it out.
Yep.
It's really good. It runs it a little hot, but you're gonna get some cool patterns out of it. I haven't flown mine yet, and I've got to. I want to see how that all works. We've discussed that. So, again, any closing thoughts, Steve? Anything you got to say to our fantastic podcast fans who've been smoking it up? Make sure you leave your comments on iTunes and all the other ones, because I do get them and I do read them, and I really appreciate it. And put the ratings, keep us pumping up and everything. We're doing really well in the aviation hobby category, actually, which is awesome.
The only thing I'd say is everyone keep sharing everything they're doing. I mean, thanks to Facebook. I mean, Facebook sites at the moment are where it's at. Like when you've got, years ago it used to be like forums and that sort of stuff, and like RC groups and that sort of stuff. But now these individual chat groups have popped up everywhere. Like shout out to Victor for his chat group EDF Clubhouse.
Yes.
5,000 members strong, whatever it is, and that site is fantastic. It's great information that gets shared, and everyone is so supportive. And
Except Victor.
the guys that get on there and the haters.
He takes Canadian bacon shots at me daily.
And but the best part about it is that the guys that would get on there and preach their hate about products and that sort of stuff aren't there. So you've got a little bit of it, but more of it is more disappointment with products rather than actual hate. And it's good to see that people can actually talk about stuff and discuss issues they're having to fix problems with aircraft and that sort of Hang on, Victor just said 1970 Mustang is his first car.
Nice.
See, Victor had Mustangs before they were cool.
Yeah, 70 Mustang. Actually, no, that was a. Ooh, I'd have to look at a 1970 Mustang, but yeah, well, hey, I shouldn't say anything. I mean, I rock my 68 Triumph whenever I have a chance, so yeah.
Yeah. That's a cool car.
Thank you, man.
Speaking about Triumphs, did you see? I sent you that photo of the motorbike I'm going to buy.
Yes, big motor, big sucker.
Oh my god! So I'm going to go from a monkey bike to a 2.3 litre or 2300cc Triumph Rocket 3. How good's that?
That's probably got more horsepower than my daily driver.
Yeah, I think it might. It is. It's a massive motorbike, 360 kilos, so it's 600 some pounds.
That's crazy.
Huge.
All right. Well, on that note, as they say in show business, this is the show. I want to thank everybody for coming out and hanging out with us and talking with Steve. Steve, thank you so much. I know we took up a good chunk of your time.
It's been great. But I'm off now to spend some time with my boys, which will be a lot of fun. We'll go and stir each other up. It'll be good.
All right, sir. Well, thank you very much. You have a wonderful weekend since it's like Saturday morning there, and we're going to see if we can get flying if it's not raining like crazy. Again, everybody, thank you for being part of this podcast. We've had a lot of fun tonight, and I hope you learned some neat tricks through the industry. It's Steve. It's been a pleasure talking to you. It's nice to see the unwound Steve.
Sure, as always.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, to be honest, it's a little bit more relaxed, Steve, I think, than what previously would have been on here, but
less tired, more energetic, and just always a pleasure.
It's been a lot of fun, and we'll do it again.
Excellent, sir. Have a great night.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, see you guys.